a shut up, sit down artist. At the back door, man, a shakedown artist. After this, you need a makeup artist. I'm listening, trying to figure where your heart is. I pick apart, trying to figure where the art is. Couple minutes, you'll be swimming in the darkness. Couple lyrics from the gang, that'll bang, 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 man, I look at all brain now. Couple minutes for the gang, spit slangs on them, man, I looking at a prank now. Come around with a big man, boy, get a 2-2 slap and a bigger man pat down. It's throwing beggars on a bruck out thing, man, I shut down shop in a little man background. I'm a straight up breakout. Worldwide shut down, I'm a breakout. Big moves, big jeans, I'm a breakout. More tracks, more racks for the breakout. More food, man, I looking like takeout. Now fools like cookies and a stakeout. Bare bites for the lash with a breakout. Gang, it's a breakout.
Happy Monday, many people.
Yo.
How's it going?
Man, I can work out again. My back's not broken. I'm like Batman in the third act of
Banefield.
Batman, the movie.
Or the comic where Azrael had to step in for you and do all your podcasts.
Wait, who's Azrael?
In the comics, when Batman broke his back, Azrael was who kind of like stepped in for Batman and.
Got it. No.
A little bit too much of a vigilante there.
No, I definitely had like I don't know. I was doing I think they're called exercises.
You were doing like a squat, right, or some sort of leg machine?
It was a
leg
trapezoid deadlift, is what it was, and we figured out that I had gotten to the level where, you know, the weights were going up enough that it really mattered that my core was not real stable, and so as a result, like when you first start, it's like you're dealing with such light weights that you can goof around and you're like, oh, that kind of hurts. That's bad form, whatever. But then we had reached a level where the weights were heavy enough that of the 8 reps, it only mattered that 2 of them were incorrect. And that equaled a week of me bending over like an old man to pick up stuff. And so today was the first day of me, you know, being able to start a lightweight workout.
Yeah.
Broke back Brian. Yes, exactly. That's what it is.
Hey, Justin.
Oh, hi, friends. What's going on?
Oh, I think we got a little Darth Vader in there.
Yep, not anymore. In your face, Darth Vader.
How's it going, guys?
Man, it's a good day.
I like to think so. I like to think it's a hell of a day, friends.
Yeah. Well, we'll get started here in just a minute. I got to finish up some more
It's good.
prep stuff.
I got to limber up. I got to get loose. Got to get loose.
Get all the wiggles out. We were doing the Bizarre Briefing last month, and I think we have to do a new one tomorrow. But I was doing the wiggles before we started the recording.
Yeah.
And Brant was like, "No, I like to save my wiggles." And I was like, "What? That's not what you do."
To be honest, I cannot think of a more Bryce and Brian interaction than that.
And Brant.
Wait. Oh, sorry.
I can't imagine a more Bryce and Brian interaction than that.
Sorry, Bryce and Brant. Like it does seem like Brant would be like, I have very few wiggles to give, and I need all of them. That's amazing.
Yeah. But, yeah. Oh, thank you, Big Jim. Welcome back for 6 months. Hey, you got the gold.
Huzzah!
And still it works. Here for third month. Thank you. Still at work.
Man. Hey, separate side thing. This is just chit-chat between coworkers. There is somebody who does a fancy pants meal that we had talked about me attending. Yeah, but tomorrow would be the day, and I the problem is I think they only do it on Tuesdays. I could push, and we could try to find some other Tuesday to do it, but he says that it wraps up around 8:30, and then there's however long to get back.
Yeah,
or
isn't
whatever.
it like an hour away or something?
Well, I think Wimberley is like a half hour, 45 minutes away. It's far enough away that it would be an inconvenience to everybody else. So
okay,
I don't know. I feel like maybe we'll push on this one, and find, see if there's another opportunity. But I feel bad because he carved out space long in advance for what normally is an expensive thing to do.
Well, we've got he does that monthly, right? I was gonna say we've got a couple of live shows coming up, which usually means the Tuesdays immediately after are free because we run the live show.
Right.
So the one at the end of the month is TwitchCon, and I don't know if that'll be a Night Attack thing
Here,
or.
let me ping him and see how big a deal it would be to pick a different one.
I mean, it would be 2 weeks to do the Scoop Fest one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Scoopfest would be in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I just don't know, like, if behind the scenes he's staked his reputation and be like, no, I will quit this job unless you let Brian come to this month's thing.
What is the thing again? What are you looking to do?
It's like a monthly beer and food pairing sort of meal.
One of our fans is a Fancy Pants chef that does a super exclusive, like, 5-course thing, and he was kind enough to offer, like, if you and Bonnie would like to come, this would be great. Here's the date, and whoopsie, it happens to be a Tuesday, and now I'm in that weird middle area where we're like,
Yeah.
Hey, we got to. So I don't know.
I mean, by the timing, that you're mentioning, like, if we started late and you came in real hot, you could work on it, but
yeah,
you wouldn't have
but
pre-show
that does seem like that
to
would be a
cook.
stretch from our normal situation. So
bit.
yeah, let me just take his temperature on how hard of a thing it would be to push to the following.
Maybe if you leave early, you skip a
Oh
course.
geez, no, it's in San Marcos, which is farther.
I know.
Ugh.
How you doing, Andrew? How was your weekend?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Good. Working, did some stuff.
I didn't realize I asked you just as you ate something.
I'm good. Look hard a bit. We'll hire someone in Fiverr to do some stuff. We're good.
Great. Oh man. And then Justin, you got a big stream day tomorrow, right?
Yeah, because I'm traveling on Wednesday, so tomorrow is gonna take on PX3, which is normally on Wednesday, and then I'll be running 2 Can't episodes for Jury Daily Wednesday and Thursday. Is Ice Cream Social Boys. They each did a unpopular opinion, and so the Matt Donnelly one is good.
Mm-hmm.
The Paul Mattingly one is awesome.
Oh, for a second I fully thought you said, like, the Matt Donnelly one is good. The Paul Mattingly one is garbage. Let's talk about that guy. All right.
Well, no, because Matt took it. I think they both took it seriously, but Matt's is something that's like an actual thing that people have to that he like gets brought up, whereas Paul's is about Star Wars and the prequels and all sorts of silly stuff.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You were. I caught some of the cross chat on all this.
Yeah, no. Effectively, I wind up siding with him, which is great.
Hey,
and this is about the prequels being good?
No, it's about the prequels being substantially altered based on reaction to episode 1.
So if episode 1 was different or better or gone, the
or
other
received
two would
better,
be better,
we would have gotten a different episode 2, episode 3.
we would have, that there were things that seemed to be that there are popular fan theories on things that were abandoned, plot lines that were abandoned, and character arcs that were abandoned, and so he then has his own pet theory on top of another pet theory, but the backing on it's pretty good. I would go ahead and subscribe to Jury Daily. It'll be a fun time.
What was I gonna say? Are you uploading something right now, Justin? We're kind of getting a.
Yeah.
Hey man, what are you BitTorrent? This is the new segment. What are you pirating?
It'll be 6 minutes, but we can. Is my audio farting out?
It's fine. You're getting both of you guys are kind of.
Is it Better Call Saul?
Okay.
It's Better Call Saul. I bet you're pirating it.
I'm uploading the Jury Daily that I just recorded. But if my audio's okay and my video is glitching, then the video will stop glitching in 6 minutes.
Yeah, it's fine. You're just both kind of getting lost in the Skype duck well today.
Oh, okay. That I can try and.
What can I do on my end?
Well,
5
try
jumping jacks.
talking
It's
over
very
us.
important.
I'm
So if I'm
thinking
talking
about a
while
day
Jermaine is
when
talking-
If you can,
Okay, so
if you can do
Andrew's good.
5 jumping jacks, I think everything will be fine.
Okay,
just,
so Andrew's good. Justin, if you can try talking over me while I'm talking the
Yeah.
rest of this sentence, which is going to be a
Hey,
little long,
hey,
so
what's
that we
up,
can try
guys?
to
Yo,
get
hey,
Skype to
hey,
recognize
hey,
that.
hey, hey,
Seems
shut
like-
up,
seems
shut
like
up.
we're
Hey,
all-
Bryce, shut up.
All right, we're good. Thank you guys.
Okay.
Sometimes
well,
you just need to.
here, if,
crack
if
the
we're
whip.
good enough to start, then let me real quick go to the people place.
Okay.
We're good.
That's always a classic move. If we're good
If
enough
we're
to
gonna
start,
we're gonna wait. No, go me. Go. No, they're coming back.
I'm just gonna say I don't understand it, but maybe it's the 20 years of stage performance. It's like there's one thing that just irrationally overwhelms me right before gig time, and that's like, let's make sure
Gotta
that
go
you don't
quick.
have to pee mid show. Let's go.
That's so unprofessional.
Oh my god. It's bad enough with the crinkly raptors.
Oh, I hate that. Oh, I hate that. It's like after I heard about ASMR, I'm like, let me go, and I'm like, people like having somebody whisper in my ear is like,
I will say, having spent as much time as I have with Andrew, that ASMR is his personal hell. Like, I can't imagine a form of quote unquote entertainment that Andrew would react more poorly to, considering like I would have like a mint wrapper like in my pocket that I would forget about, and Andrew would be like, "Is there like a crinkling somewhere? Like, is there something like around there?" And it's like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Ooh.
Oh my god! All right, yeah, let me throw that away."
I have weird sense of smell and weird sense of hearing.
I
I'll
want
be in
you
a
to
car
know-
with a friend. And I'm like, I hate pot. I'm like, why do you say that? I'm like, well, that car over there, they're smoking. He's like, how do you know? I'm like, well, their windows crack. And then people will go like, oh, I do notice. It's never like, oh, I've got senses nobody else has. It just, I notice things that people don't notice. And then I go like, can you, and then they go, oh, wait, So
I want you to
but,
know that I went to the restroom and it was time to go, and I was just like, I'm not even gonna have to go, am I? There's nothing here, and they were all right. And then as I started to pee, I thought, ha ha, got your asses. This was justified.
What is the purpose of telling us this?
I mean,
I'm proud of you,
because I
Brian.
was right. Because it was a justified action. That's all I'm saying.
you get a yellow star on the Brian Can Do It chart.
All right, my recording is going. My sync is good. I'm ready to go. If you're ready to go, Andrew,
Ready.
then take it away in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Weird Things Podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood,
Hello.
Justin Robert Young,
Well, hello, friends.
and Bryce Castillo, our super producer extraordinaire.
Hi, everybody.
Well, now that we can legally say happy birthday without having to pay any royalty rights, we could sing it, but we won't. We'll just say that we did.
Hold on. Is this this week development that they finally?
Oh no,
overturned?
that lawsuit got was
years
settled a
ago
while
now.
ago.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, okay.
But there have been no birthdays since then.
Finally, there's
No,
been a
'cause
birthday.
We could sing happy birthday to. it's kinda-
Previously,
kinda-
I've been meaning to sing "Good Morning" to you with some words from a different poem, but that's fine.
We could do that too. Kind of this week, it's been kind of a cool week for anniversaries and stuff involving space. First and foremost, NASA turned 60, October 1st, 1958.
Happy
NASA was
birthday.
commissioned.
So,
Wow.
man, I'm trying to even wrap my mind around that time period where so much genuinely good exploratory science was done in the name of a weird proxy war. Like how do you explain the space race to somebody under 20? Like it really was a genital measuring contest.
I mean, not. I mean, at that point in 1958, I mean, post the launching of Sputnik, like there's a very seductive quality to imagine the past as a version of the present, right? As like a version of the present, but with different clothes. And I think that something that is fundamentally different between now and then is how much we know about everything. Like I literally in my Twitter account saw somebody retweet a only in Russia Twitter handle that just like had a guy that apparently you can do 30 squats at a train station and get a free train ticket. That's how much I know about Russia right now.
Have you seen this, by the way, Bryce?
No, I haven't.
I totally have seen it. See if you can find it because it's worth looking at. Basically, like there's a trivial amount for a train ticket, but if you do 30 squats, you get it for free. It's amazing.
But what we did not know then, I mean, people in the government probably knew it more, but the mainstream people were exactly like we look at the space race as kind of like a dog measuring contest because we know now we have more of an idea of where the Soviet Union was financially, where they were militarily, where they were in that fraction of time. But before we really had the public had any knowledge, as soon as they launch Sputnik, as soon as they are accessing space, the idea that they could put a missile in space and send it down to Earth was as much of a reality as anything else. Like, so I do think that the space race in terms of national consciousness was not just, haha, we'll beat you, Ruskies. Like that's a modern patina on what was, I think, a genuine panic.
Let me add some color though, because we always say, oh, it was this mission. It was, yes, there was a race between us and the Russians, but part of what happened, remember, NASA was a civilian agency. Okay, NASA was formed as a civilian agency. The Army had been working on missiles. Post World War II, a lot of those German scientists who built V2 rockets came over here. Werner von Braun worked for the military, worked on guided missile systems, and we're working on those. Okay. We started NASA. The goal of NASA was to say, we want to try to have a civilian agency, not just have our military build bigger rockets. So NASA was set out to go do this. And what happened was interesting is the early days, NASA was really good at blowing up rockets. NASA was not successful. Vanguard's other stuff, they kept blowing up on the pad. And finally, we had to go to the Army and go ask for what the Redstone rocket, which is really kind of like the V2.2.0, to be honest with you, to be really honest with you. We took that, painted it like a NASA rocket, launched it, and hey, we were successful. We put, I think it was Explorer 1 into space. We really made a sincere effort at a civilian space effort, and we have consistently then. And yes, we funded it with the energy, the drive to show kind of American superiority in technology and to sort of have this dominance, because there was this fear. The military and the government did not take space seriously prior to Sputnik getting up there. It was just, yeah, we'll get there eventually, whatever. Then all of a sudden, one day, beep, 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 Sputnik's orbiting the Earth. And they're like, wait, the Russians can put things up there into orbit? And they're like, yeah. Like, well, the space thing sounds pretty important to me now.
Quick sidebar. Imagine what it's like at that moment when all of a sudden the mere fact of exactly one artificial satellite going over American territory, like all of a sudden I would imagine that you're like, they could just have a grid of 100,000 missiles just up there always ready to beep bop boop anyone, anytime, anywhere.
Build space stations with missiles on top of there so you don't have to worry about launching them. They're already in space. That was a realization that came in. And so the military continued its efforts. NASA was, forget what the precursor agency was to that, but then they basically formed NASA and said, this is what you're going to be. And NASA tried developing on their own, and then eventually they brought in von Braun, et cetera. And then von Braun went to work for NASA, and that's what von Braun had wanted to do all along. So he says. I mean, this is a guy that, one of the greatest rocket designers there was. The Russians had Korolev, had their own experts. But anyhow, there was a sincere effort towards that. And, but early on they ended up being, let's use the military ones. But but then we have this very different, like, the Air Force has their own space plane, like the X-37, whatever. Okay. NASA has, funded, both Boeing and SpaceX to develop crew capsules, things like this. NASA had the shuttle, but that's the thing to think about. Like, Air Force has their own space vehicles. And so we have this separate civilian effort, which I think is commendable.
And it is worth pointing out, this is 1958, so the president is Dwight Eisenhower, a non-politician, a general that is coming in as president. And if he has one legacy, I mean, again, he's the guy who coins the term military-industrial complex, because he knew not only how much the military did, but also how much the military didn't need. And you know, this is I think it is important that NASA is a civilian agency, that it wasn't just a spin-off of a military operation, because I think he understood the value of having it be outside of that structure, outside of the Pentagon.
No. Now, another cool anniversary. It was 10 years ago last week. SpaceX finally managed to get a rocket into orbit.
10 years ago last week?
Mm-hmm. Seems a lot longer.
Well, no, it seems less longer to me. It seems like we've been arguing about SpaceX and then falling in love with what they achieved shorter than 10 years. But in a weird way, you know, SpaceX has been sort of one of the links of our 3/4-way friendship, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, but I look at it from the point of view of, you know, it was the Falcon 1, right, that they put up there, which was a test of their engine. I look at look how far they've come in 10 years. Falcon 1, they've got their first single engine rocket payload to reach orbit. Here we are 10 years later. Okay. That is, YouTube is like 2 years older than that. Okay. Facebook is 2 years older than that. Here we are today, and they have reusable first stages using multiple reuses for that. And when we talk about this, you know, a lot, there's a factory in LA where they're working on the Mars rocket. They're building the first fully reusable rocket, you know, upper and lower stage, in 10 years' time from their first successful launch to that. It's insane. It's incredible. You know, you look at like the SLS project, you know, NASA, which love NASA, not a fan of the bureaucracy, which is inevitable in, you know, every organization, whether it be private or public, but, you know, this doesn't work at that pace. And people are like, well, Elon Musk, you know, he exaggerates. Well, he you know, says aspirational deadlines, but 10 years from launching one single stage to reusable boosters and all that stuff, kind of.
That was that the make or break rocket, like the one that he had like leveraged and then re-leveraged, and if this one did not go up, it was possibly curtains for the company.
Well, you know, it was the one that was before that was their third one. They launched the third one, and the third was like, third one's like, this is it, and we're done. They launched the third one, it blew up, and he's like, oh, we're done. And then his engineers are like, we think we have enough parts for a fourth.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, it was like, you know, it was like Thanos did the snapping, you know, and then like
the snapping.
Yeah. You saw that on Reddit, right?
No, I did not. That's
amazing.
Oh,
you know about there was a Thanos was right on Reddit.
Oh, that's right. And then they suddenly banned half the people who were in that subreddit. I didn't know it was called the snapping. That's fun.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of very awesome as far as where we are headed. I think right now, you know, the challenge is that in the Cold War certainly drove long-term space ambitions. It's absolutely true, because what you weren't going to get was Nixon wasn't going to come into office and kill Kennedy's moonshot program. And the moon program, like if you look at opinion polls, was not popular at the time. Among most people, because it was consuming a tremendous amount of the GDP.
But was it unpopular because people didn't believe it was possible, because it was preposterous, it was a ridiculous risk, or was it not popular because it was not relevant to the actual, you know, like those resources would have been, quote unquote, better spent on establishing allied territory versus, you know, NATO versus Warsaw Pact?
I mean, for as far as Apollo, you know, my assumption is like it was expensive. You know, you look what percentage of the gross domestic product or the budget, it was huge. It was a huge amount of the budget. And people go like, you know, NASA used to have this budget. Like, yeah, NASA used to consume like 10 to 15% of like our budget for one single project that was not repeatable. We couldn't do again. You know, that you know, again, landing on the moon was the most amazing achievement ever. I'm not gonna start doubting that. But
is it a case where it took so many resources to get to the point where we had the successful moon landing that inertia, because obviously there's a supply chain going into it. You have to build multiple versions of the Saturn V rocket and so on. Like, did we only bother to have the other moon missions because we had all the equipment laying around after having made it there first?
Well, we had planned to do this sort of continuous let's go to the moon. And the thing that happened was, like anything, the Saturn V ended up being a bit of a compromise. The Saturn V borrowed heavily from Wernher von Braun, by the way, his ideas for that, but it was expensive and it wasn't reusable. And in conception, I think they could think of like how, well, we'll be able to build this thing much cheaper than we expect to. But you look at costs and everything that, whenever it's other people's money, your costs increase from rockets to student loans. Why do we have so much student loan debt? Because you can borrow the money really cheap. So colleges raise prices. You don't care. You don't complain. So colleges start building $500 million campuses and stuff and things like this and hire, 120, people who don't teach, So, these things, it's inevitable everywhere. Okay. With this, what the problem was there was nothing going into keeping the cost down. Do you look up the cost of you know how much the moon rover costs? The moon rover, the little buggy, the moon buggy cost?
I mean, I know how much a moon or just a regular buggy is, so call that $7,000, multiply that 100 times X, call it $700,000. That seems reasonable, which, as I'm speaking these words, makes me think will not be the case.
Justin? We're talking the whole program, but then to deliver it. But yeah, to get one of those things.
I mean, yeah, I'll go with Brian on it. I mean, like it's just
$700,000.
$700,000.
Like 100 times more expensive than just a regular buggy.
Okay.
Bryce?
Well, I see the number here. I looked it up for this reveal.
$400 million.
So even a 1,000x.
The moon rover, the moon buggy. Yeah,
sure.
Even a 1,000x multiplier only gets us a third of the way. Is that right?
38 million was here. So excuse me, this was 38 million. I was looking at the total development for the project, but so you're looking at like the actual rover costs themselves, $40 million. Okay. Now you got like, well, they had titanium wheels, they had this, they had that. You look at what went into it, and you're like, did we need to be spending? So they sent 4 up. So the development costs were part of the overall NASA project. So I've heard that carved out at 400. But at the material production costs at $40 million a piece. Okay, if you're looking at 10 million per rover, that also shows you what happened to everything else. Do we think that that's now? Granted, they're like, well, it has titanium wheels, it has this, it has all this sort of. Yeah, it might be overbuilt. I don't know. Point is though, putting things into a vacuum, into that, you have to have them electric in the back. I get that, but it's like, do we think that that's really what it would cost to do that? If I don't know, like how much do you think SpaceX is going to spend on theirs?
I'll tell you this much: whatever they spend, the first generation will be more expensive than the second generation, than the third generation, and so on and so on and so on. I mean,
and beyond that, the question of like, okay, well, how much would NASA spend on whatever SpaceX is going to spend, like that is already spending on a Mars rocket, right? Like the answer is probably so much so that we're never going to spend it because it would be so onerous to the federal budget that it would never be able to get off the ground. So I think that's the fascinating element of where we are right now with space, and having a company that is specifically dedicated to getting prices, getting efficiency in a relatively inefficient market because it was so expensive to get into it to begin with.
Yeah, they have incentives. Of course, we talk about doing that, and that's what's going to be interesting. And again, the good thing is that we have SpaceX and Blue Origin both working there, and Blue Origin is funded by the richest man in the world, who,
by the way, got to be the richest man in the world because he figured out the most cost-effective way to move objects from point A to point B. Now he has a new quest to move objects from point A to point B. And just point B happens to be maybe a little bit more ambitious than, from Connecticut to Cincinnati.
Yeah, this is a guy's life's ambition is his stated ambition is to make humanity an interplanetary, people, millions of people living and working in space. Which, when it's the richest man in the world saying that.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, if we go back to the moment everything changes with Sputnik, right? That all of a sudden it goes from, eventually to, oh my God, yes, no, we need to do this immediately because now it's possible that we could have death from above and there's nothing that we can do about it and we're not even on that playing field. Then yeah, look, there's everything can kind of change in a second when it comes to new frontiers. As soon as you demonstrate that it's possible, then all of a sudden the world is different. And that's to be fair. That's kind of why I thought like the Space Force thing was a good idea, because it's like, yeah, you want to know what? For anybody who's like, hey, this is a really, really bad idea now, man, we're like one headline away from it being, oh, thank God we set up Space Force a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a wild thing. Hold on. I'm imagining, and I'm going to phrase all of this in the abstract. What if a self-avowed terrorist organization said, hey, guess what? Everything's cheap on the internet, and for a mere $3 million, we've placed 17 satellites in orbit that can chunk down some nasty ordnance or knock out all telecommunications on the planet by creating a debris cloud of flak that'll, like the movie Gravity or whatever. It does feel like, whether or not they've even done those things, that kind of announcement, if it's credible or feels credible, would suddenly make me real happy to have a Space Force.
There's been a couple things that have happened in space that didn't get as much public attention because the public story of what happened we're not quite clear about. One was there was a Chinese satellite that in the process of maybe deorbiting took out like other satellites, damaged other satellites, and it was supposed to be an accident, but there was a suspicion that maybe it wasn't. And then there's been a Russian satellite that's been changing positions at sort of a weird, erratic sort of level, which sounds a lot like these all happen to be like state-controlled vehicles, and it's not something we've seen with like communication satellites. So space weapons, U.S. calls out Russian satellites very abnormal behavior. So we're already in a position now where not that we have our X-37, we have our own stuff up there, we have our own capabilities, and I've heard crazy stuff, but like that part of it's already started.
Do you
not
think,
the terrorist part? Yeah.
Do you think that quietly, and of course we're speaking from the American perspective here, do you think quietly the military has been developing hardline redundancies in the possibility of some kind of, like, let's say all the satellites just get zapped at the same time, we still have some ability for intercommunication? I mean, I know that's quite literally the founding philosophy of the internet, but in the meanwhile, so much of it relies on satellite retransmissions. I gotta believe that there's stuff that quote unquote nobody or no normal citizen knows about. There's got to be plans in place for what happens if somebody were to try to knock out all of our communications.
Well, sort of, like, yeah. And so you mentioned like hard lines. You can't, like, one of the biggest back for communication systems, one of the reasons AT&T had a government-backed monopoly for so long is because they did so much secret stuff for them. Sandia Labs was, the government went to AT&T and said, hey, start a laboratory to like do research for us. Like, the whole history of that is fascinating about, how much of that is, AT&T in many ways was really kind of a government fiat, and the ways that it behaved in building some of these secret things. And that was why they were able to get away from from having to be split up for so long. And even though it flew afoul of so many rules, they were the one company that like, no, they're special and different. But anyhow, that's part of it. But what you still are going to need orbital stuff, because you got people at war in the war theater where you can't run hard lines to places there. But that, we work at laser, line of sight, all these other sorts of things. But one of the biggest things that's happening now And one of the reasons why a lot of people are bullish on the future of SpaceX and Blue Origin. Blue Origin, by the way, the engine, I think their Vulcan engine, the Vulcan rocket program, I think, selected their engine, the BA, forget the engine name right now, selected the engine they made to be used in the next generation vehicle. So Blue Origin won't just be making engines for their own spaceships. They'll be making them for other companies too. People are bullish on SpaceX and Blue Origin because if you look at the requirements now that the BE-4, thank you, Bryce. If you look at the requirements now and you look at what the Air Force is saying, hey, we want, and some of the other agencies are looking for now, they talk about, hey, we want rapid access to space. We want rapidly, be able to get things up in space very, very quickly. For that case, you mentioned exactly, Brian, because all of a sudden somebody takes out our communication satellites. We don't want to be in a position where we can't communicate. So that's a big, big driver right now is fast access. Let's launch something, in 24 hours.
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons, by the way, we use solid rocket boosters in space for commercial space. We still use those as assists, like the SLS will have them, the space shuttle use them. They're helpful. They're problematic, though, because they're dangerous and you can't control them. But the reason we use solid rocket boosters is that they're from missile technology, because you can put a missile with a solid rocket booster in a silo and leave it there, for months, for years, and then come back light.
Nothing has to be maintained. Everything's ready to go, and you just flip a switch.
Yep. Well, we need you to flip a switch.
Yeah, the money switch, baby. And the switch turns on the fountain of money for us to live. Hey, it's me, Justin Robert Young from Weird Things. Hi, that was a character that I was playing called the Money Guy. If you want to support this very fun and interesting podcast, Weird Things, well, you get on over to patreon.com/weirdthings, which is where you can go ahead and kick in a few dollars to make sure that we keep this show on the road. Patreon.com/weirdthings.
Gentlemen, what washed ashore?
Oh boy. Can I guess?
No, not allowed to guess on the show, Brian.
Okay. Well, here's. I saw a thing that I hope this is not what you were teeing up, because it's a separate side awesome story. It was a shark that washed ashore, and this girl walks up and realizes it's gonna be beached and die, and so she walks up to a shark, like a 6-foot nurse shark, it looked like to me, and drags it into the water, in the waves, until finally it's able to start swimming and get control. Like, she saved a shark's life. It was freaking amazing. It was on Reddit.
Nice. No.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Was it a carcass of some sort?
No, it was alive. All right, ready? Florida beachgoers spotted a rather unusual creature Tuesday emerging from the ocean. And a possible...
I wish I could convey to the audio listeners the quizzical look on Andrew's face as he struggles to put words to it. Sorry, a living thing. This is where?
Florida.
Okay. All right. Justin, you're our resident Florida expert.
So alive, I mean, I would assume it's something that's not native to Florida, right? So, because all sorts of stuff floats ashore in Florida and might be a little bit weird.
Dead Polymers in the chat says a sea squatch, which I love.
I used to insist on calling the skunk ape. That was our Florida's Bigfoot, the swamp squatch.
Swamp squatch. I like sea squatch though. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So I'm going to say a polar bear.
No way.
It's lost.
Yeah.
Okay, and it washed ashore. Was it still alive when it washed ashore?
Yes.
Was it a person?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
Person swims ashore.
Well,
Next
I
up
mean,
is
like,
Nick.
you know, I don't know, like a castaway, like, you know, he had a shipwreck and, you know, he figures out how to make fire and all that stuff.
Our neighborhood got invaded by Russians once. That was
Pause everything. Quick
Well, I mean-
sidebar. Let's talk about this.
So it was back in the '90s. I lived in Plantation, Florida, right next to where Justin grew up too. Canals. Our house was in canals. So we had an ocean access canal. So that was our thing. You hop in a little boat, go somewhere, whatever. One day, our neighbors have a backyard full of Russian sailors because some Russian sailors took the little dinghy out from their boat. They were docked in like Fort Lauderdale and decided to go take a little tour of Florida. And they got lost in those. You look at the canals on a map. You look at how like this. They got lost. They pulled up to the back of a house. They're like, "Excuse me, can you be helping us find our way?" They're like, "Oh yeah, let's." And there's like just a bunch of Russian sailors standing in their backyard.
That is amazing. And it's like,
Yeah.
meanwhile, like I would love to believe that these Floridians were treating them like alien visitors. They're like, you like vodka? I bring vodka.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had I mean, this neighborhood. I'm sure the Jimmy Buffett's was playing and the margaritas were flowing. They're like so. But yeah, it was just this like, oh, you see what over there, and you look over there and they see them the uniform like, and it was like wow, like this is like the craziest thing. And bunch of Russian sailors just go
to go from docked in Fort Lauderdale deep. I mean, to where Andrew grew up is like, that's, if you're obeying the wake zone restrictions, like that's a solid like half hour. That's like a half hour, 40 minutes to traverse all those very intricate intracoastal canals.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
back to what washed up. It's not a human being. Justin, your vote was
Polar
a
bear.
polar bear. I'm gonna. Yeah, this is the Weird Things show, so I want to say something like a giant squid or a killer whale, but those aren't weird enough. And it was alive. It was alive.
Yes.
Oh, question. Does it belong normally in the sea?
No.
It was a horse. It was a horse.
I
Oh,
would like
come
to
on.
see that.
Yeah.
Horse.
People pay good money to take a picture on a horse by a beach. Like you'd have tourists throwing you $30 in a Polaroid camera.
Especially if you painted it like a zebra and told everyone it was a zebra.
Bryce, I'm sure you already know the answer.
I believe I found a lot of stuff washed on shores this past week.
I love the fact
True.
that was the confounding factor. Is like, man, a lot of stuff washed ashore.
Florida nailed it down, but yeah, I think I found it.
This is over on the Night Attack show, we joked about how one of the best Google News searches you can have is, quote, apologizes for, end quote. So I would add to that list, quote, washes ashore.
Yeah. That's a great one. The answer is, guys, there are only two choices here. There are only two choices.
Snakes?
Oh,
Monkeys?
gosh darn it.
A rattlesnake.
Oh my God!
Rattlesnake.
Wait, how did a rattlesnake end up in the ocean?
Oh, I don't even know why that made the news. Like, come on, you got some drug dealer on a boat and he gets a little too excited, accidentally drops his snake in the ocean.
Remember that Korean news agency that would do the reenactments? I'm ready. I will put down the first $100 to a Justin Patreon account where he explains why stuff happened, and we show like videos, recreations, drug deal in the back holding a rattlesnake by its neck.
I mean, come on,
Nobody
yeah.
does cocaine. Oh,
He's
Say
trying
hello
to
to my little
He's trying to make a metaphor, and he's punctuating his sentences by firing a solid gold Desert Eagle into the air or in the ocean, and he accidentally gets startled and drops his snake. And next thing, about a bing bang boom, snake washes up to shore.
True story. That's the real reason that the Marie Celeste was empty when you got there. Somebody was doing exactly that, and he dropped a snake in the boat. Everybody jumped out. including the snake, and so there's nobody on there.
It's stranger things could happen.
So no explanation is forthcoming. This is a genuine ass mystery.
If I had to guess, the thing probably got washed out to sea, and then
Tide comes in, sweeps it when it's not looking.
Yeah, it was like, man, like this sucks.
Oh, I just got to keep
He's like, I think
snaking
I
my
see
snake
some
ways.
people. Hey guys. He's
got
on
a
shore,
spare
like,
mouse.
and then some girl threw him back into the ocean.
The snakes come in, the snakes come out. The snakes play pinochle on Florida's snout.
Yeah. Snakes come in, snakes come out. Can't explain that.
How about a philosophical question here, then? Moving on.
Thank
from
goodness.
that.
Moving on.
All right. So we have 10 years ago, SpaceX launches.
Yeah.
You know, they built their own engine, which is sort of a key thing. Part of the reason the success of SpaceX was they said, we think the engines could be better. And people are like, you're arrogant. You know, they've been building these engines for years. What do you think you're doing? And then it was like, you know, Elon Musk with Tesla, like, build a better battery. You know, if you figure out the battery tech, you know, that's a big part of it. We're seeing incredible developments there. I've been blown away by what I've seen in artificial intelligence. Like every few years, we get some amazing development. Like a thing that happened in AI that was a big thing, that was an academic thing, and it worked its way into tech, and now it's everywhere and all that. And we go, well, yeah, of course. And that was solving vision. Like AI vision is insane. And we showed before, I showed like the algorithm, like you only look once, which was, you know, this neural net, which is very, very fast identifying things, which 15 years ago, just even 10 years ago, would have been amazing. Something
Totally science fiction back in the day.
Yeah, now your phone in the background processes your images, identifies, you know, who's what, whatever. We solved the vision thing because we came up with, part of it comes down to, it's not just brute force using computational power. It comes down to often using how you process these images and stuff, how you do this sort of stuff, right? So vision was a big development in AI. Now we put vision into everything. You know, like Facebook is using vision recognition to look at all the products in your photos you upload to Instagram to see what your buying habits are and all this. And this is often where these things happen. There are other developments coming in technology, in AI and stuff that are, you know, amazing. I showed previous week, I showed the 3D sense on the iPhone, right? And showed you how, you know, it was able to see the side of my face through the map.
Just looking at you face on, it was able to build a 3D map that was good enough that after the fact, you were able to move it around and we were able to see sides of your face.
Like real time. Yeah, I mean, the real time do that. I mean, that's, you know, the real time processing there is incredible. And it was funny, I was playing around with it in the dark, and there's a mode where you use it in the dark and it looks like predator vision because it's just, you know, that. And these are coming at us from all different directions and stuff, these technologies. And so, you know, one of the things that amazes me is, like, if you look inside of, let's say, like the Pixel 2 or the iPhone, and you look at that camera technology is incredible. You have within 1 cubic centimeter, you have something that blows away, you know, commercial photography or, you know, photographic systems, you know, from just a couple of years ago. Like, it used to be that, you know, camera technology was like one of the things that the government was like, had strong export licensing, preventing it from, because that was like spy tech and stuff for like satellite stuff. But anyhow, it's incredible. Billions of dollars technology inside of there. Now we have cameras that take 3D images, things like this we didn't even conceive of. My question, do we need to be, what else could we be dreaming bigger about? What else are stuff that we could be doing and things that could happen, you know?
I'm very dialed in on my increasing understanding of how programmable, even in, you know, at my advanced decrepit age, our silly wetware is, in terms of setting up incentives to create habits and stuff. And I think we've talked about this before, but we can program Alexa and Siri to program us. So it's like previous to this, there are commitment devices like writing goals or hiring a trainer or sticking to a program or whatever. These are exterior structures that we would build that in a crude format caused us to generally pick more good choices than bad choices. I feel like now we have the AI ability. When we have these AIs who have the access to our entire back catalog of behaviors, then they can set up a bunch of tiny little nudges to get us to do the right thing. For example, imagine, and I don't know, this is some kind of version of AI helicopter parenting, but when your AI knows that you have a script due tomorrow, and it knows that in general you have a tendency to just want to watch one more episode of The Good Place, the AI can nudge you ever so softly when you hit like, hey, let me watch The Good Place. It could take just a little bit longer than is necessary for it to do. And then also at that exact moment, pop up with a reminder that your thing is due tomorrow. Like right now we rely on random happenstance to make all of that happen. And I feel like we can cause our own realities to make us be the best versions of ourselves in the future. That's where I think there's not a lot of talk or not a lot of encouragement or embracing of that possibility.
I'm gonna say I like that idea. We talked a while ago about the leaked Google video, the whole video of like how the AI technology, whatever, could be used to make your life better. I forgot the name of it, but they showed like they used the name, I forget what it was called.
The Selfish Ledger.
Yeah, the Selfish Ledger. They took like that. So the Selfish Ledger, right? And my issue with that was, besides it being extremely creepy, and we have no reason to trust Google at all. As any institution, but I mean specifically a marketing company that makes their money by using your data,
by selling your attention to other people. Hey, by the way, holy cow, we didn't even get to the whole Facebook news of the last week, but we could put a pin in that.
Yeah, we can in it. And so I'll just say my issue with this, my problem with this is that we can say it'd be great. I can have AI help me plan these things. I think that's great. I think that is an admirable goal we should work for. You look at the new Apple Watch, and I was like, man, it can monitor from having a heart attack. Like, this is amazing. This sounds really attractive to me. My concern is this: I've seen companies say, hey, yeah, we want to encourage people to be healthy because of this research that we then find out a couple years later is bogus. Now, we changed the entire school lunch programs, the United States. We changed the dietary guidelines based upon, in many ways, and the way we did things based upon some research that came out of one institution that we're now finding out is bogus. We're now finding out that the claims and stuff about that they said about how to get kids to eat, what they should eat, whatever, was fabricated, cannot be replicated, whatever. But we took it as, and it's like people go, I believe science. I believe evidence. I can write science on anything and tell you it's science, but if the evidence not there, it's not really science, and that's my fear.
Which sea change are you referring to? Like the institution of the 4 food groups, or the food pyramid, or is this? I don't know much about the story you're alluding to.
I mean, there was a research more recent in the last 10 years or so, 15 years, coming out like, change the names of food and children are more likely to eat it, and this is how you do this, and there's a lot of that stuff. The stuff that formed
they're called adventure pods, not apples. Yeah. Go for it.
Way more than that, the government sort of, positions on fat completely wrong. Like the stuff they still say is just not borne out with the evidence, salt intake, whatever. Evidence is opposite, but you have a few people who've been in charge of those programs and stuff who've staked their reputation on this research, and they're the ones that get to change these guidelines or not, won't give up on that. And you have like people, somebody mentioned like, Big Sugar, like we have the influence of different industries, different corporations, are able to, I don't care what political system you have, there's going to be power, and there's going to be power to be bought. In
the book Salt, Sugar, Fat, there's a section talking about how the American Dairy Board, basically got to the place where they had more dairy than they knew what to do with, and because milk expires, they had to figure out like, okay, what's a thing that we can induce American society to adopt, and so up until that point, cheese was always considered a standalone delicacy, but there was a considered effort to figure out a way to get Americans to consider cheese as an ingredient. So now all of a sudden they have something to do with all this dairy because cheese lasts longer than milk and so on. So it's like, I mean, that's not. I mean, it sounds like crazy conspiracy theory stuff, but that's a real thing that happened. And, you know, it's up for debate and discussion whether or not humanity is better off as a result of all that.
Yeah, and it's the danger comes into it's not influence will never go away. And we could say, hey, we want a system where we're going to prevent this. And, you know, you could say, oh, we'll go for a much more tightly regulated system, let's say like Europe has in some regards. And then you get Dieselgate, you know, and then you get these other things. And so I don't the perfect answer, I'm not here to say it's this or this, but it is knowing what's going in. It's like people want to know the ingredients of their food. You want to know where these decisions are coming from. We want to know the quality of the research, and we don't just want to stamp labels on it and go, well, it says Harvard here or here this or whatever. You want to know. We need to ask questions. Why? Why? Are we sure? Are we sure? Are we sure? We need to not be afraid, and we shouldn't be shut down if we're going, well, are we sure? Are we sure? That being said, like, yeah, I think like Brian, like AI is helping making decisions to be great. It's just, you know, the scary thing to me is when it's like, it's like
I bet China has very specific thoughts about how useful and wonderful that technology can be used.
Oh my God. You know, and that's, can I just say, like, I'm really glad when actors step forward and point out when somebody says something silly or stupid, but that's just a side jag. But like, I've yet to hear a Marvel actor ask what happened to Fan Bingbing. Just saying.
Wait, sorry, I don't know what you're referring to.
The whole the China situation. How China's very powerful, but like nobody in entertainment.
Got it.
Nobody in entertainment will say anything about it because they're like buying up so much American product, and it's like, you know, we had a big blow up because, you know, hey, Kanye managed to upset everybody, and everybody's like on Kanye's case. I'm like, okay, but like, you know, like how come nobody's saying like, hey, one of the most successful box office star in the world from China, Fan Bingbing, vanished? Nobody's bringing that up. Nobody's saying, hey, China, what happened to her? You know.
So Justin, what unasked questions?
Sorry. You said the China word. Right?
I saw this the other C word.
There's certainly nobody in Brian's orbit who learned very, very fast. Don't talk about China publicly, or else you will have to have your sad-faced portrait in the New York Times.
Oh yeah. A friend of ours has written some movies and spoke candidly and freewheelingly, and oh boy,
even mentioning, no, we have to make sure that we don't upset China was something that could not be said publicly. Like, of course not. No, geez, no, that's insane. But you make a sad face. Put it in the New York Times.
Yeah, we'll go into this a little bit after things. I apologize for that side jag there, but yeah.
But meanwhile, in the general category of as we talk about like what's possible with artificial intelligence that we haven't considered before,
I really like, to me, and this is something that I know I've talked with Andrew ad nauseum about, and it's something that I feel like should be a thing here now is the audio internet, and take specifically now that we have voice assistants at the position that we do now, and they are kind of ubiquitous. The idea of keeping them with us in a way, I mean, I guess it's a shame that, you know, Amazon being as successful as they are with the Echo isn't where Apple is with Siri, in that, like, I just want headphones where I can do so much via just like an always going, like whenever I have headphones in, just a more Echo Assistant-esque kind of conversation back and forth on where I'm at, where my day is. And that's where I think, to me, Brian, I don't view, you know, I think your AI example is very, very interesting in that we volunteer constantly ourselves into systems that are designed to make us more efficient. We do that in school. We do that in work and management structures. You know, the three of us have decided to take a more nomadic path through life, but that there's a lot of times that you seek for a structure that can optimize you. And I think that, to me, is something that AI can fill in as we opt into like, hey, I want to get this project done. And then the AI says, cool, based on my template for how to get this project done, these are your tasks. I put it on your calendar. I'm now going to remind you as you go along to make sure that this happens. Or based on like, congratulations, like based on, averages, you're going faster. Or sorry, man, you're going slower on this than you should. If you want to be done by this time, then you need to start working at this. If you want to lose X amount of pounds, you have to make sure that you log in at the gym, today. You can't skip, yada, yada, yada. So I think to me, that is something that audio wise, considering how often we walk around with buds in our ears, or we have some kind of speaker that can talk to us, that to me, a more all-encompassing ecosystem there and development there is something that I don't know if it classifies as have to dream bigger, but I do wonder why we're not there more. We're not closer to there now.
I've been thinking about like the audio internet for a long time, and how useful it would be, and a lot of the ideas, things I wanted to see. Now we have an Echo and Siri and OK Google and all that, but one of the problems is to try to get the same kind of functionality we have now. There are like audio assist programs and stuff that will read web pages, and if you use like voice assist and stuff, it'll call out properly formatted HTML, will tell you what the buttons are and this are. But it's tedious. If you're able to look at a screen, and you look at a screen and you got 15 options, it takes you a second to see it, process it, and decide, I'm clicking here. If you're trying to do that with audio, it's either we have to say we use it in a very, very different way, where the AI is making choices for us, or we have to radically think the paradigm of how we can get 10 menu choices at once.
This is one of those things that's covered in the book Homo Deus, where the trend will be we increasingly rely on our algorithms, who we trust to do things. Like first, we're going to rely on algorithms to help us parse our own thoughts about politics and which is the best candidate. Which do I value more, this person or that person? Or do I value this liberty versus oppression more than I value, sanctity versus corruption? Do I value, care, harm, So at first we're going to consult like an oracle, but at some point we're going to question, like, why am I the dumb meat body that has to take half a day to go show up at the polls? Could we please have my algorithm just do this for me? Sorry, it looks like you got something there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's, the idea of the algorithms helping sorting and make choices. But and I have not read that book, but I'm familiar with that argument. My problem with that argument is that it is we're all rational actors, so this is the rational thing we're going to do. But that's not how we choose. Or, we take the poll, the survey, who do you most agree with? Oh, I most agree with this person. You know what? But that guy dresses like a slob. Don't like him. I'm going to vote for this other guy.
Right. Well, and that's one of the points in Homo Deus is that we will increasingly rely on algorithms to keep us in check so that we don't make irrational things. So your algorithm will say, hey, according to, the numbers, based on the amount of physical activity you've had, looking at your schedule, it looks like there's a strong chance that you're going to not turn up at the polls next Thursday. So what I went ahead and put on your calendar, knowing you, like I know you, it's me, your algorithm. I went ahead and put today, you're just going to go vote early so you can knock it out. It's like.
I hear, and I guess my again, it's we're all into the idea that we all are rational actors and we'll make those choose those things in a rational way. And again, but you know what? My friend told me there's going to be a debate tomorrow night. Maybe I should watch. I mean, I think that I think AI can help us. Yes. I think AI can help us be better. Like, hey, every time I get a paycheck, I automatically deposit this and do these things. Preference choices are harder though, because you can tell somebody you like this, everything about you says you like this is the right thing. And then we resist it. And it's the weird, it's like many doctors do not like Watson or AI assisting with diagnoses and stuff, because it's like, once you've taken that away from me, and that's the weird, I don't know. I don't know. I just assume that I don't know. I mean,
I tend to believe that the pathway we will follow, whether or not it ends with AI doing more decision making for us, is that AI is going to be there for optimizing our own thinking. Right? That is, to me, the very obvious gateway of trying of us continually asking more of AI so it does what we want to do faster and better and makes us faster and better. And then at that point, then yeah, Brian, I see where you're going, that it's like, okay, well, I've asked the same question, the same questions a million times. And now it's like, okay, well, also this one candidate matches your opinions 90% or 99%. Like, would you also like to put him or her on your watch list? I don't know why we're making a watch list for you.
or just on your radar or whatever.
So here's and I think, Brian, that's the best case scenario. I'm all for that. The problem we have right now, two of the biggest users of artificial intelligence in daily life are Google and Facebook.
Yeah.
And we just found out Facebook, hey, you know that phone number? Like, we need a phone number for security purposes to lock down your account. They were asked flat out by like New York Times or whatever. Like, hey, do you use this for advertising purposes to link to accounts? Like, no, we did not do that. We did not do that. Researchers did some research, looked in there, tried phone numbers to see if they popped up advertising, found out they're linking them to advertising. And Google's or Facebook's like, yeah, no, we link it to advertising. And you're like, wait, you just said you don't. And now you just said you do. And it's like, and they found out too that, like, I've talked about this before, people like, oh, we should be able to erase your identity or portability of your data on Facebook. And I've talked about shadow accounts. I'm like, there's that data in their folder, but then there's this, every time Brian uploads an Instagram photo with Justin in it, they know you two are friends. They know your contacts. If you put Justin's phone number in as a contact or this or whatever, they've got their own, and that's not part of your data. That's, quote, their data that they have about you, and they've got that. You're in the system. I'm in the, if you're not on Facebook, you're still in the system because somebody somewhere, it's helpful.
And that is the let's remove the AI type of things out of everything. Let's time travel back to 1967, and you have enough money that you can hire a private investigator to find out, like, hey, somebody's harassing my employees. Will you find out who they are and try to figure out what motivates him to do this? Will you find out who his friends are and all that stuff? Like, certainly there's a place for that. And then meanwhile, somebody follows somebody around and finds out a whole bunch of stuff. Like, now we're able to get that for not just pennies on the dollars, but freaking pennies on the millions of dollars. And as a result, this is the part that I'm loath to admit, but it is Facebook's data in that they're hiring billions of little private detectives to piece together a narrative and story that helps, that gives them information that they can sell to the highest bidder, which, by the way, is one of the creepy things about Facebook.
Well, certainly so. I don't think that it's necessarily, we have an evolving thought on data. And this, I think, is a general problem for Facebook going forward, is they have an issue of people got into Facebook for very human reasons, for connections and yada, yada, yada. The more that people understand about how we got there in general, and this is anecdotally, the more people I feel uneasy about it, or don't feel comfortable with their ability to control, what this is, and whether, and then they start to make the calculations in their head of, okay, well, is this worth it? Do I like it? Do I get enough out of it to have this amount of data used this kind of way by this company? And so when we talk about going forward and now thinking of like, okay, well, maybe Facebook can say, so understand that we're kind of creepy. However, nobody knows you like I know you. Nobody can make you a better person like I can make you a better person, because nobody has the head start in the data like I do. So sure, is it weird? Is it creepy? I mean, that was your fault because you weren't an engineer when we were. And so, like, yeah, we weren't hiding anything from you. We were just gods and you were just peons. But now that we're all here on Olympus, let's understand that you...
The only thing creepier than your argument is the fact that I would fall for it, that it's very seductive. Like, I'm just like, well, I mean, we are here, and you do have my last 10 years of activity, and I mean, I'm starting over from scratch, and with a brand new relationship that might be just as abusive as this one. Ugh.
Have you guys looked at myaccount.google/purchases?
Uh-oh.
I just sent you a link.
myaccount.google.com/purchases.
Yeah, so this is like, whoa. So, Google keeps a good track record of it, depending on like the location data you have, so it can know, oh, you were here at this point, or search history. You searched this X, Y, or Z at this point. This is creepy to me because I don't have an Android phone and I don't use the Google Pay system.
Holy crap.
Ever. But I'm just looking at the top 3 items on here, and these are things that went through my email as receipts. And so
every email that
iTunes
goes
stuff.
through that involves a purchase, Google catalogs it, has a database of this information.
oh my God.
And it's everything. It's Amazon stuff, iTunes, Postmates. I spent $100 at Eastside King. When did I do that?
Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. When did I buy that?
It's just a convenient
sucks.
thing.
My word! My word! This is an astonishingly precise. I could tell. I just realized that I'm logged in as Bonnie because I'm seeing Picasso books and.
Well, not only that, it's smart enough to know like when it was fulfilled and where it shipped to, and it can break out the tax and all this stuff because all this stuff is coming in as text over email, over Gmail, But
the important thing is that apparently I was logged in as Bonnie when I bought 15 classic packs of Hearthstone.
that sounds right. That sounds about right.
So you're like, they didn't collect this data. There are 2 reasons to Google collected this data. Okay. One is the obvious, like, well, they want to know what you buy so they can advertise to you and all this. The other reason they collect this data, and I didn't know this existed until like a couple of days ago. The other reason they collect this data is because when Google sells advertising, let's say they sell advertising to, Marvel to advertise the newest Marvel movie, they want to prove that if you bought the item, or if you go look at, Crate and Barrel, fancy candlesticks and they advertise to you, Google wants to show advertisers that yes, this worked. That this ad worked, that we showed this is why they bought it. Because if you don't buy it online or you buy it through some other means, Google wants credit for they're the world's largest advertising company, and their customer is advertisers. So they collect this data for their advertisers, not for our benefit, not to help us.
I spent $27 on Barbie Dreamhouse Adventures Puppies Pack.
That sounds right.
What is going on?
That tracks.
Man,
I hate this.
Yeah, right. All of a sudden, I want to go take a shower. This is
really
again though. This is why it works. This is why they have built these incredibly successful companies. I mean, understand this. Facebook and Google killed the modern advertising industry. A modern advertising industry lasted as long as mass media existed, which, like, let's begin with newspapers, spin it up into magazines, radio, television, all that. It all went through the same channels of you go to an advertising company, you get your advertising made, you sell it to the following channels. That is rapidly atrophying and devolving to the point where the kings of the industry, the unbeatable titans that built media conglomerates, are now tailoring their upfront presentations to why we still matter. Please continue to advertise with us. Why? Because on the other end, the wolves are lower cost, higher targeting. And to get that, you need all of what you are looking at right now in horror, because they know exactly how many puppy packs you bought from Barbie.
It knows that I bought Denizen from Levi's 32 by 30s. Oh my goodness.
Denizens, those are good jeans.
Yeah, no, they are. They flex a little bit.
They got a little flex, but they
stretchy
fill.
stuff in
Yeah,
there.
they're good.
Yeah.
So, and that's this is what we publicly know. And it's funny because you read their policy, like, who can see your orders? Only you can see your orders. That's not a complete answer. And it's like Facebook. Like Facebook's, now we're getting into, Google was working on Project Snapdragon, which was, or Dragonfly rather. Dragonfly was Google building a search engine for China because Google's still not in China. And apparently Google had hundreds of engineers building a search engine for China that would, in China, certain topics you're not allowed to say, like Tibet, Tiananmen Square anniversary, Winnie the Pooh, and Google was building a search engine that would prevent those from being there. And it's one thing to say, you know what, when you're in another country and there's certain laws and customs, maybe you should abide by that. But they also were going to tie, in order to use the search engine, it was all going to be tied into your phone number, and the idea that the government would have access to whoever said this. And it's like probably a good after things conversation. We'll talk about that. So
yeah,
we'll table that.
Speaking of which, I do have a hard out in a few minutes. If we can jump over to picks, I have a pick that I am deeply in love with. Ladies and gentlemen, finally got around to actually playing the new Spider-Man video game. It's the best thing on the planet. It's amazing. I strongly encourage you, Andrew Main, to quit writing books and do nothing but get a perfect 100% completion on it.
Oh boy, it looks beautiful. It looks absolutely
great.
gorgeous.
It's the fact that the story's great, the cinematics are great. It's so much fun for me to play with the kids because there's logic puzzles that Penny, we hand her the controllers, and then there's, get from point A to point B, and that's a moment that our 5-year-old can just web sling, and, it takes her a while to get there, but she gets there, and it's fun and funny. And then, oh crap, there's a battle. Hand the controller to Dad, and it's like,
That's great.
It's amazing. It's one of the best video game narrative experiences I've had in years and years and years. It's great.
And the story is really solid. I mean, I think we talked about this.
And plus, also, let me not talk. There's a character. Stop me if you've heard this before or seen literally any Spider-Man anything anywhere. There's somebody that Peter Parker works with who will not always end
This
up
was
being,
Justin's comment on his pick.
Wait. No. Like, there's somebody that Peter Parker works with that like that's the name of somebody who turns out to be a bad guy.
Sure.
But we're still in the early phases of the game where it's like he's really sweet and look at him. And he's like, I don't know. It's great.
I don't even know that. I am like halfway through that game, and I don't know that guy makes that turn.
Really?
I don't know if he does or not.
Really?
I know that there are a lot of villains in this game, but I know that there are a lot of Spider-Man characters in this game.
I got upset with my daughter for getting to a mission objective too quick, and I didn't get to hear the rest of the J. Jonah Jameson podcast. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, if you missed it, J. Jonah Jameson does not work at the Daily Bugle. He runs a podcast that is very much InfoWars Alex Jonesian.
It's amazing.
It's very funny. Because he gets dunked on constantly by the people he calls in. Like, oh, this guy had an encounter with Spider-Man. Put him on. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, Spider-Man was great. Like, hang up!
It's way, way good. If you have a PlayStation 4, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Justin?
I got a pick. We got done with The Good Place. Liked it. It's great. Watched the first episode of the new season on regular-ass TV. That's not as fun, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the show that we started watching afterward, which we're only 2 episodes into. However, it's called Maniac.
Oh, yes, Maniac.
It is a limited series for Netflix. It stars Emma Stone and
Jonah Hill.
Yeah, Jonah Hill. And I'm 2 episodes in, and I have not gotten to the part that literally is populates all the trailers, which I assume at this point I kind of know is coming. But man, is it just fun? We're just in such a fun place in TV right now that you can get Academy Award winning actors to do a project that's a little bit off kilter. It's a little bit strange and weird. The world building is fantastic. I don't know. I don't know if it's fantastic in that like it's a credible world, but it's a near future with a near past aesthetic that I think is certainly pleasing to the eye. And we'll see. It's incredibly well crafted, and I've enjoyed the first 2 episodes so far. I'm excited to see where it goes. This is definitely on the thin Jonah side of thin Jonah, fat Jonah dynamic.
Directed and co-created by Kara Jojo Fukugawa, who directed first season of True Detective and is now directing and I believe writing the next James Bond movie.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah.
This I finished watching this over the weekend because I was like enraptured by it. It definitely feels like a very creative sort of show in terms of like mixing in sci-fi and slightly dystopic elements. But it's really creative, and it gives them a good reason to do all these very specific vignettes that are out of genre. And I think it's a good time. And as far as like being a limited miniseries where they're not going to make any more of it, I think that's probably a good idea. Because
it's good. Not every idea has to go forever. And there's a lot of Netflix series that are they hit, and then you're like, it would be legendary. I think that there's certainly more. Stranger Things is something that I think lends itself more to like, oh, I want to see what happens, with this world. But man, if Stranger Things began and end on that one season, it would still be a legendary moment where people would still be jumping up and down and screaming justice for Barb, right? Yeah. And that's a thing that we don't get now that we have more of that story. And whether or not you like or you hate the second season, which I think we were all pretty mixed on, there's just something really, really cool about like listen, the Maniac universe, if you're into hard sci-fi or you are mostly delighted by a sci-fi universe, a near world sci-fi universe where things connect a little bit more, this might not be for you, but there are fun. Like there's no reason why in the near future with all these other things that everybody will be using CRT monitors. It's just kind of an aesthetic choice, but there are little fun touches that are more about the moment than they are about, the universe that I think is cool. So check it out, Maniac. I mean, if anything, just watch it because like I want to support more top flight, like, a big headline movie talent doing and top line directing and writer talent just getting a bag of money from Netflix to do 6 episodes of a cool idea. Like I like all that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth going in blind as much as you can help it. Because there are just lots of great turns and surprises.
All right, enough. We gotta like recommend. I'm like, okay, I'm sold. And it's like, and then I'm like, okay. It's my dad would go like, I saw this movie. I'm like, I'm gonna see it. And then my dad would give you, you're not bad like my dad. My dad will give you the plot.
Oh yeah.
And my brother would have this joke. Well, thanks, Dad. You saved me $10. Bryce.
I have a pick that I only started watching today, and I think for a lot of people that's way too late because this is a beloved show. But I guess Netflix is doing some sort of co-production deal on the Great British Baking Show / the Great British Bake Off, and so now they're listing it as a Netflix original on Netflix, and it's a cooking competition show with bakers in England and them making different cakes and all sorts of pastries and stuff. It's really as far as like a cooking competition show goes, or any reality competition, it's a little gentler, but also like in the one episode that I saw, there were like 3 challenges in this hour-long episode instead of 2, which is a lot. You kind of go through everybody really quickly, but that stuff always starts to spreads out as more people leave. But it's a nice, more low-key sort of reality show. It's not a lot of like inter-contestant drama like you would get on a Top Chef or like Road Rules sort of thing. So, but yeah, and Netflix has 5 of the seasons now, but I know that I read a press release when I was looking this up because I was interested in it being a Netflix original. And they were like, yes, we have Collection 1, which is season 4, and Collection 2, which is season 3. And it's like, because it's there's still like a PBS deal, I guess. So you don't lose anything probably by watching them out of order like that, but I think it's really cool, and probably going to be my next like background thing is the Great British Baking Show / Bake Off.
Ruby, my pick. I spent part of last week working on a project and realized I was doing a completely stupid, different way, and then a coding thing. And then I said, you know what? Maybe I had this epiphany, like maybe I should just do this all in Python. I went to Python, and I'm like, you know what? I really like Python. I've been, and most people are like, what is he talking about? Like, if you want to learn a computer language, I recommend now learn JavaScript. JavaScript is great. JavaScript, you can do a lot of things now. You can build if you want to learn Ruby on Rails, you're still going to have to use JavaScript to make the website do something. So learn JavaScript, but you can have JavaScript now run on servers. You can use JavaScript with React Native to make apps. You do a lot of great stuff with JavaScript. So I'm a big fan of, I think everybody should learn to code a little, and we all took a little bit in school, but it's always good just to sort of do that. JavaScript is wonderful, but if you're looking for another one, like Python is great because Python, you can do a lot of cool things there. And I built like this whole application to go do some stuff. And it was just like, man, I should have done this to begin with. So I've mentioned this before. I go to Udemy. There are always great courses there, super cheap, $12. That's kind of like how other people buy a video game and get into it and play it. My thing is I buy a course and I spend a few weeks, a few days, whatever, learning something, and then that's my thing. So yeah, like it used a couple of years ago, be like, what do you recommend? I'm like, well, Ruby's good. It's easy and all this, but then JavaScript has become so widespread and so useful for a lot of things. You can do client side, server side, all of that. And a lot of these things may sound, here is my thing. And this is for people who are maybe curious but afraid. If you go to, let's say, Udemy or use lynda.com, which is free for many people with a public library card, you can take a course on something knowing absolutely nothing about coding, knowing nothing. You can do a starter course, a beginner course. A week from now, you will be a different person. A week from now, you're going to have this capability. A week from now, it's not to mean you're going to be an expert, you're going to know everything, but a lot of these things that were mysterious and opaque to you, you will understand. You'll understand how to find your answers to do stuff. You'll understand how to create an application on your program to get it run, on your computer and get it run, how to work with a server, how to do this stuff. 1 week can change your life considerably. Not to say you have to become a programmer or do that, but it will give you a capability and something you didn't have before. If you have a couple hours to spend every day for a couple days or a couple weeks, whatever, consider it. Just consider doing it because it changes the way you think. I have a friend that had serious medical problems. And so he's been sitting at home for like a year and hasn't been able to do much. And I'm like, well, what about coding? He's like, I don't know. My computer. So I sent him a new computer, sent him a course. And I'm like, I'm not saying you need to become a coder, but like if I knew if I had the experience I had now 20 years ago, I'm not saying, my life turned out pretty well. I'm not complaining, but I would have had other opportunities. So.
The phrase that rings in my mind is something that Brian Tracy said in one of his books is, it's a challenging thing to aim for something that will happen 5 years from now or a goal of self-improvement. But he's fond of reminding people the time will pass anyway. So if the time's going to pass anyway, probably worth it to set yourself up to be a better person a year, 5 years from now.
Yeah. And it's as these things, as our lives become more dependent upon computers and technology and AI and stuff like this, having the ability to understand a little bit more what's going on is helpful. It's super, super, super helpful. And it's just, it's like, car repairs kind of like got sophisticated and, many of us don't repair a car, but it's still a good idea to know how a car works or how things work or what's going on there. But particularly if you're a person trying to figure out what to do next, this is, it's so, so helpful, so useful. So that's my pick. All right.
Awesome.
It's been weird.
Cool.
Hey guys, I'm sorry I forgot to mention before the phone call. I don't know that I'll be able to make it for after things, or maybe I'll be there for the second half of it, but there's definitely a phone call I have in 2 minutes that I got
to make a phone call too. So are we good for like waiting 10 minutes or so, or?
Sure. I don't know how long my call is going to go, but I'm going to run off and go do it, and then I'll come back as soon as I'm able.
You guys good for me to take this?
If yours is only going to be 10 minutes, Andrew, I guess that's fine.
Okay, all right, I'll keep it short.
Okay. XOXO.
Okay. You want to just go to music, Justin? I mean, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Unless you just want to chat. You want to just chat, or
I mean, yeah.
yeah.
know, we can do whatever.
Here.
It's definitely weird.
It's a definitely weird thing. How about this? I'm just gonna put this thing up. We'll come back in 10 minutes.
All right.
Okay. All right. Justin, I think Justin maybe stepped away for a minute. Hopefully he's back relatively quickly. He'll be good. Let me see.
Is that your phone?
What?
Is that your phone?
That's the song.
What is that?
What is?
That sound?
The music?
Yeah.
That was just the intro to the song.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a jingle.
Yeah, I got the phone compression.
Yeah. Hi everybody. We'll be back when Justin gets back. Actually, I can give him a quick text. Actually, let me go see. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna go use the restroom also.
Can't actually see a chat room here, so I don't know if I'm live or not. But I'm here.
Gotta turn the chat room on. Sorry.
I'm like, what am I gonna do now?
Sorry, I left you.
Hey guys.
Hi everybody.
I was looking at developer documentation. I'm here.
I managed to watch a lot of new stuff on Netflix the past like week or so. I called this in February, but now Netflix has their own like Real Housewives style show called Made in Mexico. And it's like 9 different people, which is too many. I think 9 is too many people for a show like that. But they're like preppy rich people in Mexico City.
Well, it's 9. You don't know how many are going to get kidnapped, by the end of the season. So,
hey, Justin, welcome back.
What's
I'm
up?
kidding. That's never happened in Mexico.
Oh yeah, no, that's real stuff. That's real talk.
Never happened. Never happened. I told you the story about a magician friend of mine goes to Colombia.
Oh, gosh.
I'm laughing because that's a happy ending. Goes to the airport, gets picked up by the driver, right? And there's a sign, his name, picks up the driver. They drive out into the hills. They drive to some nice mansion house, like a beautiful house, go through the gates, goes to the door, takes him into the bar area there, and there's another guy there sitting there drinking the bar and pours him a drink, sits there. It's like, the gig, like, is this the gig? They're like, no, we're handling. The other guy's on the phone making phone calls, like, negotiating back and forth. There's a soccer game playing, so he's watching the soccer game, eating peanuts, drinking a beer with the guy, and it's just nice casual sort of environment, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're back and forth. There's some arguing on the phone and whatnot. And then they're like, okay, come with us. Put him in a car. They drive off to like middle of town. Intersect says, all right, just hop out here. It's like, what? I just hop out. I was like, all right, thanks, guys, bye. Gets out of the car. Another car pulls up. They go, are you all right? He goes, what do you mean? You were kidnapped.
No! Oh my God, that sucks.
And that was the whole. They're negotiating the ransom. You know, they knew, had some idea he was coming in. They knew it was somebody who hired him, whatever, knew, and then told somebody they knew. So they hired him, and that was their deal. He got kidnapped. He's like, it was very pleasant. It was very nice. I had a beer. I watched a soccer game.
No, apparently, yeah. South and Central American kidnapping, a very professionalized field. Like there is, it's a lot of, the old ugly days of, a bag over the head, Megan, scaring them. Nah, not all that hard. Just isolate them and send somebody that, has money, a PayPal link, and you're good to go.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there's still the down and dirty, like some of the, depends. The minute, if you have to choose a kidnapper, go for somebody who's a pro, knows what they're doing,
Sure. Yeah.
And it is one of those arguments. It's like, what happens if you decriminalize or you cut down on drug trafficking? The theory was kind of like, well, crime will go away. But if you're in an environment without a lot of economic opportunities, we find new crimes. So, yeah, economics.
Well,
all right.
Yeah, I think they're trying not to show a lot of that in the Netflix show. All right. So what are we gonna do for after things?
Something for season 2.
Well, it is a weird thing though, because it's like I have friends that when they go to like their home countries, always have a bodyguard. Always have a bodyguard, right? Mm-hmm. But then you get like a Supreme Court justice will go out for a jog here in the United States. So anyhow, all right.
Yeah, I guess I'm ready. What do you think we want to talk about?
Is there something specifically you want to talk about?
No, I don't have anything.
I have topics. I have topics.
Oh, okay. Then I want to just go into it, I guess.
Yeah.
You good, Justin?
Let's roll.
All right, take it away, Andrew. In 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the After Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Justin Robert Young.
Hello.
And Mr. Bryce Castillo.
Hi, everybody.
Producer extraordinaire. So, gentlemen, I have a question for you. We talked a bit about in Weird Things about how when you're a company like Google or Facebook, or let's say you're involved in entertainment, you're working to or you're appealing to or your market's a worldwide audience. And rules are different in other places, and not just the way simple rules work like taxation, et cetera. Sometimes there are very strongly different rules. And one of those is China. China is a very, very powerful economy, fast becoming one of the largest. There's economic indicators that show that they're going to level off, but they're huge. It's a big part of it. Like you look at I think Apple makes just as much money in China as they do in the United States, or China's becoming a bigger market. It's a huge, huge market. And entertainment properties in China. China is very, very, very big. China has also been extending its influence around the world and other countries through loans, economic development projects, which is not without problems because other countries are realizing there are strings attached to that, which, guess what? It's not benevolent. It's no more benevolent than Microsoft or Google or, the United States efforts, whatever, but have you. And so one of the things we're seeing is, one, we've talked about how Google's talking about expanding into China, and they had a project which was called Dragonfly, which is a Chinese search engine, which was going to censor certain results and also make it so every single person doing a search there, their phone number was tied to it so they know who did the search. So it wasn't just a matter of, hey, we're going to provide a limited product. We're going to provide a product, and it's going to work with a government-owned company that basically, if you search for something you shouldn't be, will notify the government.
Right.
This is a country without what we call due process. This is a country where some of the rules aren't obvious and free to interpretation. And, in light of, there's, it should be a bigger story, but it's not, is Fan Bingbing. Fan Bingbing was an actress who was in Iron Man 2. She was in one of the X-Men movies. She is in China, done way more movies than that, is one of the biggest action movie, or one of the biggest movie stars in the world. A while ago, it got exposed that she was getting what was called doing two contracts. One contract with studios was for one amount. The other contract was for much less, which was what was reported to the government. And then she disappeared. She's vanished.
Man,
we have no idea, and that what happened to her. There's been no statements, nothing out of the Chinese government, whatever. And there's just she's mysterious, but it's not even really talked about in China as far as what happened there. Which mentions of that have been wiped and suppressed, and so that's what we're dealing with. And this is, I don't want to get political or whatever. I guess my frustration is it's like, I don't talk politics on Twitter because, one, I'm just figuring things out like everybody else, and I'm not going to enforce my opinion or everybody, I think this, because I think everybody else is as smart as I am and has a right to their own opinions and stuff, and I'm not going to try to sway anybody or do this. So I don't get into it. I just avoid that whole mess because do I want to argue with somebody who disagrees with me? What's the point of that? But I do get kind of frustrated where people who are, let's say, celebrities who are very outspoken on some matters on Twitter and Facebook, outspoken about some matters, will be completely silent about an issue like this. We don't hear celebrities who are involved in properties or involved in China complaining about Fan Bingbing's disappearance. This is somebody, people have acted with her, people in franchised with her, aren't saying anything. They're saying nothing about this. Yet they feel very free to talk about other things, which is fine, but it's just icky and hypocritical, I guess. So open up the floor for discussion on that one.
Sure. China is certainly something. If you draw a circle around, America has certain values, right? Whether or not you disagree or agree with that general statement of like, America respects freedom, or America respects democracy, or America respects this, that, and the other. Certainly internally, there can be a lot of debate, but when you look at a system like you have in China, I think that is something that you need to understand that this is a massive player on a global scale, and there are values there that I'm happy that we do respect to the level that we respect them in America, because I do think that if somebody, I mean, we spent 2 months freaking out about how Brittany Murphy died. If a major actress just went missing, it would be a national and by that sense global scandal. And I think partly it's because there's an expectation there that people just don't disappear randomly in a way that in China, if you look at how they've cracked down on dissidents and political enemies, sometimes that does happen. As to people taking stances on Twitter and publicly, like, I don't know. I in my heart of hearts, I don't necessarily. I don't know what I am to expect from an actor or a musician in terms of political thought. Obviously, it is a branding exercise, and there is, to take the most cynical view of it. Hey, look, there's a reason why Nike had a record quarter tying themselves to the Colin Kaepernick controversy, because there is an element that binds people to what they believe in, and that makes that elevates this to something more than just, oh, we have good sneakers. Now it means something more. We are a socially responsible company. I'm a socially responsible actor. I'm a this or that. So I don't know what is to be expected. I know that it is not something that I take particularly seriously. I would rather see, as a fan of unhinged rock stars, I would rather see Kanye West making a mess of the end of Saturday Night Live, because to me, the cultural worth of that chaos is worth more than the ending of Saturday Night Live, where they just wave into the camera while the same music that's played since forever plays. So I don't know. I tend to tune a lot of that out, but I can certainly see where it can be a hypocrisy if you pay attention to one thing very, very tightly.
For those of you who don't know, Kanye closed SNL this week wearing a Make America Great hat and a Colin Kaepernick jersey.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, it was a you know, which you want to create controversy. Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, definitely. I mean, look, and he is a provocateur. He then, you know, the SNL went off the air, and thanks to the benefit of Chris Rock's Instagram story, we saw that he continued to just lecture the audience because he's Kanye, and that's what a Kanye does. That went into fairly incendiary political rhetoric. That was very much taking kind of a side in things. So again, I enjoy that because of the chaos. I don't know when we started expecting rock stars to be people that we totally agreed with, and I do think Kanye is about as close as we get to, you know, David Bowie dressing in a Nazi outfit kind of unpredictable rock star. And that's not to equate what he was doing to a Nazi, but I just mean in terms of being a provocateur and somebody that you want to you know, look at.
I guess my question is, it's like, I mean, it's Kanye being Kanye. That's why I have he's always been his own person, and that's and I like the fact that he's going to do he's a guy that will Instagram himself wearing the Kaepernick jersey and MAGA and be like, deal with this, whatever. And it's like, he's not my Christopher Hitchens, you know, but he's a guy that's doing things that are extremely unpopular. What's that?
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
I was agreeing with you.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, anytime somebody says something that's sort of away from the mainstream, even if it's what I totally agree with, and there's sort of a fearlessness there, I kind of respect that. You know, there are films and documentaries I totally disagree with, but I go, man, you know, they stand up for it. You know, what was it? Ed Begley Jr., you know, has been a green activist for decades, was very much concerned about climate change, whatever, and would ride his bike everywhere, like would genuinely ride his bike and show up in places and do this. He lived it. And you would watch somebody like Ed Begley Jr., like, I don't agree with maybe your dire sort of outlook on things, but I respect the fact that, as far as I know, you do this, where if I have to watch another person who has a supercar collection and a private jet tell me I need to worry about my greenhouse, you know, gas emissions, I'm telling you, it's just frustrating. You know, I went to a presentation with a director I really like, who was talking about, it's bad, climate change, we got to cut back all this, then went on to go talk about his sports car collections, McLarens and stuff like this. And it's like, interesting, you know, and it's
so let's draw a circle around this. What do we expect from obviously there is our modern times do incentivize people to state personal, if not political, opinions as part of their brand. What do we expect from that? Like is there, are you just always, I think, Andrew, your position is that no matter whatever you say, even if it is something that will bind people to you, you now risk the possibility that you will be found a hypocrite if you do not walk the walk, since you are taking the benefit of talking the talk.
I mean, there are actors who I really enjoy their work and I disagree with, and have no trouble watching their work, no trouble watching, you know, what they do, and can enjoy some of the stuff they enjoy and have no problem with it. And then some of them, they have positions they've made clear, but when I see there's a hypocrisy in there where I see them get on a high horse to say, hey, this person sucks, blah, 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 this person's oppressive or this, like, it's fine. But when you consciously avoid criticizing let's say the C word, because you're economically incentivized not to say anything because there's a cost.
China, not the other C word.
and
China.
not-
Yeah, China. We established that in Weird Things as China, but yeah, if you're like, no, I won't. Oh yeah, the actor I was in this movie with, they vanished. I'm not going to say anything about that, or I'm not going to mention, hey, I mentioned the word Tibet, and now I'm in trouble because my corporate partners there told me not to do that. That's the point. I understand that. I've worked there, I've done stuff there, but I'm not an outspoken person on Twitter because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to go like, hey, let's stand up for what's right. What about this? Well, I will lose some money if I say anything about that.
But you can't be beholden to all the world's problems if you have issues that are like.
Yes, but if one of the people I knew, one of our group, somebody we worked with, whatever, vanished and disappeared, and the only reason I don't say anything about it is because of China, which we know that. I mean, we can assume that, infer that. That's the problem. No, you're not beholden to the world's problems, but I can name an Avengers actor who was really big on Tibet, really, really big on Tibet, doesn't say anything about it now.
Sure. I mean, and that's a case where it's not just the implications to the larger company, but I'm sure whatever people that person has to answer to. What if you were someone in that situation where you have that pressure coming down from $1 billion company? What do you even do about that?
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I've avoided being into politics at all publicly. So the idea that, hey, if I do compromise, you're not going to find a track record of me saying I'd never do this, or I stand up for this, or I believe this, or whatever. Because listen, I don't know. To me, I guess, and that kind of comes down into it too. It's like, I think I'm maybe frustrated by the lack of controversy, the lack of criticism of that. I'm frustrated by this sort of, we'll encourage people to get up there and do this, but then we whistle and ignore and turn our head away when we're like, wait, why aren't you saying anything about this? Well, because the thing you criticized, you are the thing you criticized. When it's easy and cheap, it's like we talk about humor today. Like, I love the fact that we're in a country, you can go on an award show and you can criticize the commander in chief. I love the fact that we live in a country where you can do that and you really don't fear reprisals. You really, really don't. You don't fear that. But there's not really anything brave about that anymore, because like in Hollywood, there's no reprisals for that. People cheer you on and do that. Kanye goes up there and says something that is, in my opinion, not any more out there or loony than people who have the opposite point of view, and now everybody's yelling at him. Yeah, because they disagree with it. Everybody's yelling. Fine, we're right to yell at him, but it's like,
yeah, Kanye also comes from a point where there is a contradictory sort of nature to him that is part of his brand, right? Mm-hmm. But that, I think, is, there are some people that just know exactly where to steer to get the most people talking, and he is steering into those waters, whether or not they are choppy. Because, by the way, the last time he steered into them, the boat rocked, but he was more talked about than ever, and so now he's going to hit that button again. It also so happens that the last time he hit that button, he was releasing an album, and now
this time he has a new album,
and he's releasing an album, right. At least theoretically. Come on,
I think so.
Hashtag where's Yandi?
Yeah. So I mean, my business is like, I think if you have a platform, use it. Use it. I have no problem people using it, but I think that I'm frustrated by the like, I'm going to use it because there's no cost to this.
Yeah,
there's no cost to it.
Is your point that on some level, at least roughly, the moral math kind of has to add up if you want to stand up and be lauded for taking a point? I'm trying to figure out the rules. I'm trying to figure out why we care about some things, why we don't other, why we give attention. I kind of know, but I also, it's sort of, the answer ends up being more cynical than, is frustrating, and like, I guess that's the sort of thing is that, like, I don't know. I don't know what the moral ground is. Like, I've talked about this before about, like, should I work in China? Should I not? I don't know if I'll be able to anymore. I don't know, but like, should I go there? Should I not? Sure. I'm uncomfortable with governments disappearing people for political reasons. I'm personally,
Draw my line. I'm
Hey,
uncomfortable with that.
It's a hard, controversial statement that you make.
I know. Well, we stay that price,
Sure.
but other people apparently have no problem with that at all, and thus we're in this position where we're like, well, we don't want to friend China because of their money, because they bought us.
How much of it do you think? How much of it do you think is just specifically in the Fang Bingbing case of this is an international story, and between the nature of it being an international story and China's extensive work to erase as much of it as possible, do you think that is China as a government succeeding in making this an obscure story?
I think the sad part is that news-wise, it's more dog bites man than it is man bites dog. Like, if you really want to get, it doesn't take long to scratch the surface on Chinese human rights issues to get some stuff that is happening in real time that would curl your hair. I thought that John Oliver did a very, very good job of going into some of the stuff that is already there and making light of the whole Winnie the Pooh kind of stuff, and also sort of exporting the idea that China does want to continue to export their influence, and quite possibly we might be moving into, however much you want to take seriously the hyperbole of establishing like an autocracy in America, in our current administration, there are like actual movements being made in China to remove term limits and restrictions on power in an already amorphous central party atmosphere. So I think part of the reason why this is not a big thing is unless you really want to get into, all right, well, let's investigate why people disappear in China. And it just so happens that it's the reason why is because it's a famous actress that got disappeared this time. That's a daunting task, either journalistically or governmentarily, if you want to confront them on, from a government perspective. But then beyond that, at some point, she's probably she might just turn back up and not ever talk about it again. And
Sure. I think the problem here on the media side is that it's hard to find a media, like you go watch a box office movie, you watch anything, either China's a large market for them or there's Chinese money invested in the film industry. They've bought entirely whole studios and stuff here, and here in LA, I've seen a big influx of Chinese money, and every Chinese investment comes from a company that in part has party members who serve on the board of that. So there's a huge amount of influence here. So, we mentioned, somebody we know who are friends of the show who, a screenwriter who mentioned Tibet, and then from the corporate parent got, basically told, no, don't say this because China's a big market and this could get our movie banned in China. So this person quiet about that, and understandably so, understandably so. But that is an issue. I think why we're not hearing more actors say anything about this is because they all have projects that involve Chinese money in some way, and they know they can get their picture pulled or their project pulled because of that. And that's a scary thing to me, is to see that this country has bought this kind of influence now. They have bought the silence of people in the entertainment industry. Yeah. Most people in the entertainment industry will not say anything because they got purchased, their silence got bought, because they know if I want to continue to have a career, I want to go work at this company or whatever, I know they'll be unhappy because of this. That's a scary thing to me. That is a chilling effect. That is a thing that has happened right now. Nobody talks about it. Partially because people have this benign view of China too. That's the scary thing too.
Yeah. What you're describing is not you're describing is a broad, often indirect sort of influence, right? Like it is Chinese money being put into the entertainment industry, but it's not like Matt Damon got $100,000 from China to shut up. It's that it's that there are enough membranes in between that get affected that it's not always an active decision not to. It becomes like never even considered. In some cases.
No. And I think you're dead on. Is that it's not necessarily that you are. Hollywood in general is a very platform dependent industry, right? And it is possibly even less so now that you can control more things on the internet, personally, or there's more players that want to get, to buy things. But it still is something where why does everybody work out? Why does everybody, try to be aesthetically pleasing as they can to look a certain way? Because you're going to get more work that way. You're going to get more. You're going to have a career that way. You're going to fit into what people want to buy, because what the platforms want to buy is what you want to be. And part of that, and I think that the insidious sort of chilling element that Andrew's referring to is now part of that is don't point out that China just screwed up stuff, because you never know when the next time you're going to have all the dice roll your way. You're going to have a great meeting with an executive who's going to run you right up to the top of the poll. The top of the company is going to love you. They're going to see exactly what the vision of your project is. They're going to want to give you the right budget that you want to do it. Problem is that they have this partnership with Beijing, and this is going to be distributed out in China. This is going to be great for that market. So, when we look through your Twitter and we see you talking about this is really not good for our your career.
And when it comes to the entertainment industry in America, there's still I don't know if, I guess maybe you would have a better sense of this, but blackballing or general shunning for misgiving. I look at Dave Bautista, who has been outspoken against the James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy stuff, and that is a situation that's still very much up in the air. And what does he do as someone who's been very outspoken, where a lot of his other cast members have had a variety of responses? Does he get work with Disney or Marvel again? Does he get work with anything Disney funds, anything Marvel funds, anything that is one step away from those, 2 steps away? That's a questionable situation, and the fact that it's questionable only gets heightened by the China element.
I know nothing about really what happened behind the scenes on that thing. I know nothing. I have friends that know James Gunn, really like him, and then I've seen he's a very combative guy on Twitter, which really wasn't brought up. But man, when they come for me, I hope I have a friend like Bautista. I hope I have somebody in my corner like him. And I respect this guy. I don't know that there's I don't know the facts. I don't know if there was more behind it or not. I don't know that. I do respect the fact that Bautista's not afraid to say, hey, I think from what we've seen publicly, he's upset by this, whatever. And so I respect that. And it's sometimes I may not agree or don't disagree. I don't know enough to know anything, but I'm like, hey, you're risking the ear of your corporate giant parent. You're risking this. And I respect that your principles are, you stand up for your buddy. You think your buddy's been slighted, and you're going to go tell them, hey, it's true. Man, I wish we saw more of that. People we get a lot of people who are like, I'm being brave. You risk nothing. You risk nothing. I went at an award show. I said this, you risk nothing. Everybody in the room agreed with you. There was nothing brave about that. Somebody who's risking this right here, who really may not get work for, man, he has my respect.
Yeah, because he really only has one card to play, right? And that is that he's Drax in a very, very profitable franchise that only proves to be more profitable, since it was, theoretically the franchise that would take more of the lead in the next, run of this gigantic, never before seen cinematic juggernaut, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I do think that, yeah, Bryce, what you're pointing out is that it's easy to get on the maybe not list, and in a very subjective industry like Hollywood is, where risk aversion is kind of the rule, right? Then biting the hand that feeds you in general is a major problem. Look, There's a reason why everybody in Hollywood complains about quote unquote Hollywood accounting, Hollywood math. That if you have a contract that says you get paid after, Peter Jackson, wound up suing New Line because amazingly, as it turns out, the Lord of the Rings movies didn't make money. And so he didn't see stuff that he believed that he was owed on the back end. Yeah. And yet it is extraordinarily rare that you see anybody sue, because you don't want to be the guy that sues, because the next time somebody's thinking about making a big deal with you, then maybe they won't make that big deal because they think that, oh, geez, one hair out of place, and next thing you know, we're getting sued by this happy monster.
And it's not just because of this direct slight to whichever single studio. It becomes every studio looks at you and says, "Oh, this guy sues studios."
Possible liability.
And it's deeper than that. I can tell you about experiences and things I'm counting. Like, a lot of you are like, "Oh, they stole my idea." Whenever I hear that, it's kind of BS. But I've heard no examples of where, like, "Oh yeah, no," like the agent's like, "Yeah, no, they actually took this." Like, what are we gonna do? Nothing, because that agency will continue to deal. You're not important to that client, to that agent, as important as the other partner. They're not going to go after. I've watched agencies get screwed out of commissions by, the talent gets paid. But I watch agencies get screwed out of commissions because the network's like, "No, we're changing the terms of the deal. Yeah. You can either accept this. If you fight it, then we're never going to buy another one of your shows." While it's scary. Now I'm going to flip the script. Now I'm going to say, hey, here's a reason not to say anything about this. If you're part of, let's say, if I'm, if I'm part of some, new, they brought back Archie comic superheroes, whatever, and we've got a big franchise in China, okay, and I'm one of the stars of this thing, and I've been normally outspoken before, but now I'm part of this franchise. One of the reasons for me to not say anything isn't necessarily my own reputation, but if I go say something about, like, I have a movie releasing or we have an active franchise there, I could be killing the paydays for other actors if all of a sudden China says no more. That's another situation where it's maybe certainly you're benefiting from this, but also the idea that, like, well, if I'm asked in interviews about this thing, I'm going to shut up because, hey, we have another movie opening up there in 6 months and whatever, and China could kill it because my company corporate parent isn't keeping us in line. And it's not a matter of me losing money, but then all of a sudden, well, all these other people are going to be, lose work. So it's a defense.
I mean, I think that is a line of thinking that can come up, but I don't know that counteracts the moral argument that we've sort of been taking, right? Like, every film is a production that, hundreds of people work on. And
well, look, one of the things that was frustrating was
not to get all good place on you, Bryce, but like, really, who do you owe your greatest moral debt to? Is it the person? Is it your neighbor? Or for which you can definitely decide whether or not they eat tonight? Or is it the greater pain of the world for which your opinion would be a drop of water in the ocean? So in that situation where you're like, look, China doesn't care. They don't know that Dave Bautista is Dave Bautista, right? If Dave Bautista all of a sudden decided to move on with his James Gunn anger and then start talking about Fan Bingbing and start lobbing accusations and going on Good Morning America and talking about, like, how this is a travesty and he is shaming Disney and Marvel. China doesn't know who Dave Bautista is. They know that Marvel is doing this.
One
Disney
of Marvel's
is
guys.
And they will say, guess what? Now Mary Poppins doesn't get to play here. Guess what? Now all these other big gigantic tentpoles get to play here. And maybe if you prove that you don't employ rogues like this Dave Bautista, then maybe at some point 5-10 years down the road, then we'll let Disney movies back in. But for right now, no. We control the message. You let the message get out. This is your problem. And now Dave Bautista has to answer to why Lin-Manuel Miranda doesn't get a check. Like, that kind of stuff does happen. Like China looks at things systemically, and this is beyond that. That's a global scale. On a micro example, when I used to, every newspaper, right? departments tend to get really annoyed with each other. And you see this probably the most in editorial departments and news departments, news gathering departments, reporters. A lot of people don't realize this, but editorial departments are not connected to the newsroom. In fact, they're very specifically separated. And yet, if the editorial department decides to say, and let's just take a political example, Donald Trump is the worst person on the planet, and if he died tomorrow, here's our editorial that says the world would be better. That reporter, that New York Times reporter, still has to go to work and talk to the White House, right? And they could have a great relationship with the White House. Everybody could live in a healthy, happy world. And yet now all the White House sees is, what's this headline about if Trump died? It would be better. And they have to say, I don't write that. That's disconnected. They don't care. Mm-hmm. Now they're going to make sure that somebody else gets to the head of the line or gets this scoop that they want to get out there and a piece of information. Like that kind of the way that we think of the world is very often not how the rest of the world thinks of us. They don't make these delineations.
Well, that's like you described a delineation, but like back when I worked for the JRF, I'd get frustrated because you get some psychic, claimed, John Edwards, whatever, claimed they could talk to dead children and, would fleece parents, in my opinion, and all this sort of stuff, right? And you wanted this to be you wanted this to be a critical sort of story, or James von Prague, and the newspaper or local newspaper would cover it and they'd write a fluff piece. Why? Because they'd have the religion editor do it. Because the person above those departments who gets to decide who gets to write the stories is making choices and stuff. And that's how I saw it, was like they could have written a very, very critical thing and done us all a bunch of good by tearing this person down and exposing the hypocrisy there, but they didn't. They made a choice. The people who run the paper said, you know what, we'll have this person do it. Like, do we really want to get into this? Let's go do this. And I wouldn't be surprised if some investigative journalist had pitched it or whatever, but we'd heard internally, I pitched it, but they told me it's religion. They told me this is religion. We don't get into matters of religion. I'm like, if there was a fraud case with the archdiocese was like ripping people off, whatever, you wouldn't cover up. Well, that's different. Like,
Well, I mean, look, I think that argument gets us to the fact that I think there's a reason why journalism has grown in the direction that it has, in that gatekeepers who make decisions like that have become less valued. And now if you are a gatekeeper at a major media outlet, you are thinking less, what is tomorrow's news? And more, what are we going to get caught on if we don't move on it now? Right? You have to be more preventative than you used to be at the very least, and not to say that it's better or it's fixed or whatever, but now because of the internet, the speed of the internet, the sometimes recklessness of the internet, they are forced into a situation where things cannot be killed. You can't throw things down the memory hole in the way that you used to, and B, you have to at least anticipate, not if we're going to get beat by the crosstown paper, for which you could probably call two people and find out what they're working on, but rather, are we going to get beat by some dude we have no idea, or even more so now in social media, are we going to get beat by the person, by the what would be a lead source in a whistleblowing story, just publishing all this stuff by themselves on their social media that now we have to just rehash and cover?
Hey, you know what's a fun game is coming in the last 5 minutes of a After Things segment and try to figure out where we got here and what you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
Well, it started off. I brought up the China situation, where because China is so heavily invested in entertainment media in the United States, my opinion is that people who are very outspoken in social media about some political issues don't say anything about that. They say nothing about it. And we get a lot of grandstanding and people making political statements when there's no cost to it, when there's no cost because your peers and everybody in the town agrees with you. And then I said, and Bryce brought up Dave Bautista, is like talking about like him standing up for James Gunn, which is, like, I don't know anything about that issue. Again, like, make this clear. I have no idea what really goes on there. But I respect Bautista for standing up for his friend, and he's really risking something here.
I'll tell you what, it would be really interesting to see how much noise, or not even noise. I would love to see the trending data over people on social media shouting "Free Tibet" and how it's altered over the last 10 years. Because 20 years ago that was something that every celebrity felt very comfortable rallying behind. And my guess
I can name
is
one Marvel star who was very, very big and prominent in that cause, who says nothing. Main Marvel actor who says nothing about it now.
wow. Yeah, no, I mean, my goodness. I mean, what actor wants to wade into, international political waters on that? Where there's the force of or the threat of actual violence, and oh boy.
Well, it's speaking in this case, this is a person who was a famous actor, and then they talked about it, then they did a Marvel movie, and then they shut up about it
Interesting.
because Marvel's big, market, it's China, and so
I suppose
maybe
we'll never know who it is.
Yep, incredibly no. But yeah, I mean, I think that's, and I was trying to figure out like what's, do you do business in countries and stuff where you disagree with, and I think you're at a disadvantage not to. But I think it's one thing, like Tesla's talking about building a car plant in China, right? And, I think for Tesla, it's fine. It's it's manufacturing. We buy goods from China and all that. But if you're making an information product like Google was rumored to do, but then had everybody who got the memo delete it, it's, Google's rumored to be building, the Dragonfly, where you're doing an information technology. There's any technology can enable a foreign power. If you send steel to China, it could be used to build weapons to mow people down in Tiananmen Square. Get it. Understood that. But that's the intention of the thing, is not to do that. Whereas a search engine that tells, the government, hey, yeah, this guy's looking up Tiananmen Square. This guy's looking up this thing. We're reporting them to the government. That's different. It's building an apparatus, to do that. And, we're getting in our country, we're getting people, like some people are upset that Google works with government and the military and provides, object image recognition stuff, which can be used for targeting and stuff. And I don't have the same moral problem those people have, but I'm glad that they are signing letters and expressing their moral positions on that. I'm fine by that. People are worried about the use of robotics, and one of the reasons that some people in Google push for Google to get out of robotics is that one of the biggest contractors was the military. They weren't comfortable with this, and I'm hey, listen, I respect. I mean, I may disagree with, I would rather us have that edge than somebody else. But I respect the fact, if you're a pacifist, that you're coming out and risking something to say that.
Well, especially the engineers who work at Google, who either directly or indirectly are empowering that program by being in the same ballpark, same building.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think that's, when people come out and make statements and they really have something to risk, that's what impresses me, when they're really putting on the line. It's in people who make these cheap grandstanding sort of things, like, that's fine, it's expressed an opinion, but it's not really heroic, but that's my opinion. And I guess that comes down to, is I wanted the longer story to get back to, is Elon Musk settled apparently with the SEC. You follow this?
Yeah. That seems legit. It seems to me that his tweets were fueled by a overabundance of confidence that he really did have the financing and really was about to lock this up. And then in one of those interdependent system things, like the mere fact that he tweeted about it possibly undercut the for sureness of the deal, which made him come across as being somebody who was trying to affect the market, not come across, like legitimately per the judgment, actually affected the market and he had to pay some money, and say some things.
Well, I think the element there that really got him in trouble is Tesla, I think, Andrew would be able to tell me, is either still or was the most shorted stock on the market. He is at.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, it has been for a while. I think, it's one of the shorted stock there is. So,
he has a very publicly contentious relationship with people who do short the stock. He very much believes that there are concerted efforts to knock the stock down and to attack the company for the financial benefit of those that have short positions on the stock. And so with whether or not these two thoughts are totally independent, the idea that he put a thing out there that says, hey, when we hit this, a lolcat meme number that is significantly, or that is higher than where the stock is now, therefore significantly injuring people who have shorted positions on the stock, then we were going to go private, and that would pretty much end the game, right? That's it. So anybody who has shorted money is screwed. And then it being revealed that there was, despite whatever conversations he might have had, the board, I guess, was not as fully informed. There were still major issues that they had yet to work out, up to and including the fact that taking a bunch of money from the Saudi wealth fund for a green car company might have been bad optics, even if it was, him getting into, making a deal with somebody because he hated these other people that are playing with the fortunes of his company. So I thought it was interesting to see him step down. Obviously, the fine is the fine. But I was curious to ask Andrew. I was surprised it didn't come up on Weird Things. But do you think him stepping down as chairman of the board hampers Tesla in any way?
Also, real quick question: is this the part where we disclosed, or I disclosed that I bought Tesla Tesla stock a couple of years ago?
Yeah, let's discuss. Yeah, I have an insubstantial, a non-insubstantial position in Tesla, so I'm biased. Let me disclose that. Yeah, of course, I guess in the interest of disclosures, I think I've kind of clear, people presume that, but still, yeah, so we have, and that's one of the things we've gotten better at that on the internet. Like, I know Gizmodo and stuff's gotten better about some of the stuff because like their corporate parentage and stuff is so convoluted, which, oh boy, this formerly whatever, because I guess they got tired too of people pointing out like, hey, you just commented on this, but you didn't mention this, because the reporters feel like, I'm just told to write a story. Nobody's telling me what to write here in this case, but so what happened? Like the crux of the settlement was like 20 or 40 million. Musk 20, Tesla 20, yeah. Each one paying 20 million. And Musk agrees to step down from chairman for 3 years. Chairman's not the same role as CEO. Chief executive officer is somebody who runs the day-to-day, et cetera. Chairman is a person that basically controls the board, decides the board agenda, the board of directors agenda. The chairman role can be very influential, but Steve Jobs was not chairman until he stepped down from the CEO role. Then I believe he took on the chairman role. Okay, Tim Cook is not chairman of Apple; he's CEO of Apple. So sometimes the CEO will have the chairman role, but often they'll have it when they're one of the largest shareholders in it. In this case, Elon Musk is the largest shareholder in Tesla, and so that's why he had the chairman role. And controlling the chairman role is very helpful to prevent your own ousting and all that. But that would be the biggest. To me, the biggest thing is, I don't know if it's a day-to-day thing, but if you're going to wonder, will Elon Musk be ousted from his own company? It is more than I think it's a 0 chance when he is the chairman of the board. It's a non-zero chance if he is not. It wasn't 0 when he was chairman, because you can still have, if a majority of the shareholders got together and decided to push for a vote, and so he doesn't own the majority of the company. So if the institutional investors and people like this got together, when they have the annual meetings, they can vote or change the board layout. They could do that because he doesn't have a majority share of it. It's a little more challenging, but it's still there. I mean, because that's the way publicly traded companies work. But now is it greater or lesser? I mean, slightly greater. I mean, but it's the thing that really makes the difference is the makeup of the board itself, is who's sitting on the board, and those are where the control sort of it lays there. I don't know if he's no longer. I mean, he may still have a board position too, though. I don't think they say that, because anyhow, point is, the good and the bad. The good of it is, for Elon's case, is he didn't have to admit any wrongdoing. And there are people. It's funny because I'd read people like, well, this is clearly fraud. I'm like, SEC lawyers and people like that have different opinions on it. So anybody who's not directly involved in securities exchange, the rules and stuff, to have a strong opinion on it to me is kind of idiotic, because it's like there's a case to be said. You could look at it and say, hey, I think it's manipulation. I think he said this. He didn't have, when you say funding secured, financially, that should mean something legally. And other people will say that, like, well, from his point of view, he felt that it was secured, whatever. I think it's open to interpretation. I as a shareholder and a customer did not feel I felt the SEC cost me more money in their decision than Musk's tweet did. And so it's like, not to say that, you shouldn't punish or prosecute people because, hey, nobody got hurt this time. That's not a reason not to prosecute it, but it is one of these things like, what problem are we solving here? And this may have been avoiding, and the SEC has a right to investigate and pursue these things, but this may be the best case moving forward, is that the issue's settled. It's done. Elon still gets to run Tesla, which that would have terrified me, pulling him out of running Tesla, because I don't care what other people think. Nobody can do that job, so.
And I think one of the things I had seen this somewhere, and I'm trying to confirm it just to make sure it wasn't a hoax, but I think another part of the settlement was that someone needs to oversee his contributions to social media.
I didn't hear that.
I'm trying to double check it, because it was like a small part of the settlement, but it was not being reported on much at all.
Yeah, I think I have to go through. I read the original 23-page account when they brought up charges about this, and it was interesting. That whole news cycle was that they had. That one was the rumor was that the settlement was going to be he was going to step down as CEO, and that would have been detrimental to the company, in my opinion. Yeah. And then they were apparently that was going to be ill. Then they backed out last minute and said no, and now we come out where it's no, step down as chairman for 3 years, and I think the SEC wanted to permanently ban. It was really draconian, but anyhow. But Bryce, I don't think it would be a bad idea if there was.
I mean, we've said as much X weeks ago because of not even this issue. It was something else, right?
I think it's him and the submarine thing and the guy. And
that's right, the guy. So whether or not I can actually find this and back it up, I wouldn't be surprised if that was something being put into place.
I would be surprised if he would agree to that, because it's a freedom of speech restriction, and it would be I'm not saying no, I have to read that, but I would be, because I don't know, that would be very, very, he might have to say he has to agree to, or whatever, SEC policies or something, but, and they'd already, I mean, who knows? We'll find out. I don't have any information. So,
yeah.
But that's one of the things to think about, is that, when you're involved in large organizations, you have other people who are, you are beholden to. When Elon Musk goes on the Joe Rogan podcast and smokes weed, and the next day the stock dips, that affected a lot of people. Me, personally, my stock value went down because of that. Now, I invested in Elon Musk because he's an out-of-the-box thinker, and he's going to do unpredictable things. Mm-hmm. So I'm along for the ride. I accept that. That's sort of the brand that I bought into. But other people.
Okay. I found it here in the settlement. This is number 5B. Must comply with all mandatory procedures implemented by Tesla Inc. regarding 1, the oversight of communications relating to the company made in any format, including social media, and 2, the pre-approval of any such written communications that contain or reasonably could contain informational material to the company or its shareholders.
Okay, so that's with the agreement with Tesla. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not quite as direct as what I thought, but it's
no. But yeah, but that's question to see how enforceable it is. But yeah, that's
saying that he needs to abide with Tesla's own social media guidelines or whatever.
Well, and some possible second key approach if he's tweeting about Tesla. So.
Hey man, you want to pick?
Yes. Let's go to picks.
I only just started it, but we're diving in over on the Cord Killers podcast, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, and I've only watched the first episode, but I like what they're up to. Written by Max Landis. It's got Elijah Wood and a bunch of Britos. It's got this vaguely Doctor Who vibe, and I'm really enjoying
Brian,
it so
why are you
far.
in the right corner of that top-rated episodes?
It does look like me. That's amazing. I believe those are characters from. I saw them in the first episode. I do believe. That's amazing.
My pick will be The Good Place. Came back. It's on NBC season 3. I'm curious to see where it goes. I think that some of the turn that they took for the setting of the third season is interesting, and I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Cool. Brace.
I gotta pick. It is. Oh, what is it? You know what? I'll double up on Justin's pick from Weird Things. Maniac. Go check out Maniac on Netflix. It's 10-hour-long episodes. It's a limited miniseries, sci-fi / cerebral thriller. Well, not really a thriller, but it'll make you think, and it has some thoughts on mental health. So check out Maniac on Netflix.
My pick is if you're in the market for a new car, you want an electric, Tesla Model 3. Tesla Model 3. I'm loving this car. Yeah.
Hey, there was like an update, wasn't there? They had like a Mad Max mode. Did we already talk about this?
Yeah, they're coming out with the new update to 9.0, which is going to be the new software update for it, which is right now when you do like the lane following or whatever, car following, it's cool. What the new one's going to be, if you're navigating, it will help, like it'll change lanes for you and do this and do off ramp and stuff.
Yeah, I saw, this is, what a great time to live in the future, where my beef with the update can be that from what few videos have come out so far, when it overtakes a vehicle in quote unquote, in Mad Max mode, it stays in the lane to the left, and I'm like, left lane is for passing. Come on, buddy, you got to get back in that right lane.
It depends on the state.
Okay.
But version 9 install canceled because Tesla engineer watches Weird Things podcast and realizes made fatal mistake.
Well, and again, like they're navigating those weird waters of like, how, at what point do you have this unfair robot over aggressively driving and all that stuff? It's like I understand, but I look forward to many more videos coming out, Nick, and revealing the do's and don'ts and what the algorithms dictate in that stuff.
Yeah, it's very tricky area. We're finding that for the whole industry, self-driving more complicated than people thought. And that's what we've been talking about for years here. Is there's the basic problem, but the edge cases are the hardest ones of like somebody on the side of the road flagging you down because
on the one hand, like the free speaking of The Good Place, the trolley problem is a theoretical construct, not so theoretical to somebody's 9-to-5 job as he gets ready to write pieces of code that dictate how robots will handle emergency situations.
Yeah, I mean, there's the ethical ones. Who do I kill? But also, it just when normal, look at normal traffic conditions, and you look at where there aren't any lines, or
courtesy. Like at what point are you being dangerous by letting the other people go first and yielding the right of way? And this is
when there's a cop
stuff.
flagging you down, moving cars to the side, that's a hard one because that's.
Oh, that's crazy. That is one of those moments where it's just like, sorry, officer, my robot didn't recognize your authority. Like, that's awkward.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where that develops. But, yeah, I think real quick, like, did I tell you my insight was about, people are like, I'm never going to let a robot, I'm not going to, you have to pull my steering wheel out of my hands. I think it's like, no, you always have a steering wheel. We always have the option for a steering wheel. It's just that sometimes when you're driving on the highways, the robot's going to say, nope, I'm not going to let you do that. I'm going to keep you in this lane because there is a car there. I think that'll be the thing, is that you'll be able to, like, I'm driving. Yes, you're driving. You're making those choices, but it's kind of like when you buy the little toy one for the kid and you put it in the seat next to you so the kitty can have the little kitty steering wheel. It's connected until it doesn't need to be connected and the robot needs to take over. That will be the future.
Sure.
So, that's my Model 3. Been very, very, very happy with it. It is a delight to drive, fun to drive. If not, I live in an apartment. I can't charge in my garage. I just go charge like once a week at the supercharger. No anxiety at all. It's been very, very easy. Have not worried about that at all. I've gone long distances and stuff, and it's been great. So, there we go.
Awesome.
It's been after.
You're doggone right it has.
Cool.
All right, gang. I'm going to go make some food for myself. I'll talk to you.
Laters.
Yeah.
Oh,
Woo!
one more. Wait, quick. We can talk on air about this. I forgot to mention this. Brian, is there any mysterious or strange things in Austin that would be worthwhile for us to go there and go do a live Weird Things investigation?
Look, I'm not going to say that the new property is haunted, but I've heard 0 people. I think it's curious that not one person has shown up and confirmed that the new 7-acre property is not haunted.
What person would do that?
You know what? That's exactly the kind of questions we should be asking.
Now you're asking the right questions.
See,
Brian.
now, thank you. What sort of person should do that?
Well, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about this because we haven't done a Weird Things live in, I don't know, 10 years.
Oh, my God.
And it was fun, and it would be fun to do that. And I thought, you know what? Like, Ryan's got kids and a family, and he's kind of Austin's his thing. What if, Justin goes out there periodically? What if we showed up in Austin and we found some weird thing to do a live Weird Things investigation?
Yeah!
Justin?
I'm in.
All right, cool. Well, let's make that our assignment. And I should have done this on the next Weird Things. Is let's find out some weird stuff in Austin we can go look into. Your property sounds good, but
Probably more haunted
infamous
options out there.
spaces.
yep. So cool.
All right.
Alrighty.
I gotta make my kid chocolate milk.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.